You are ready. Let me know.
All right. Yep. You're good to start.
Thank you, IT Department. Grant, I'd like to welcome everybody. It is Friday, January 21st, 2022. This is a virtual regular meeting of the Commissioners of the City of Rehoboth Beach. I'd like to call this meeting to order at exactly 2:00 p.m. I'd like to start off with roll call. Commissioner Jay Legree. Here. Commissioner Tony Sharp.
Here.
Commissioner Ed Chernowski.
Here.
Commissioner Susan Gay.
Here.
Commissioner Patrick Gossett.
Here.
Commissioner Tim Bennett.
Here.
And Mayor Stan Mills is here. We have a full complement of the mayor and commissioners, so we can formally conduct business today. Thank you all for being here. I'd also like to recognize those attending from the city manager Sharon Lynn, city solicitor Glenn Mandalis, Evan Miller, projects manager, I believe Kevin Williams, superintendent of public works, Chief Banks, the police department, and Womack, city secretary, Brant McCormick and Joe Gottschalk from the IT department. Thank you all for being here. And I'd also like to thank all those that are watching. As you know, we have gone all virtual out of an abundance of caution because of COVID. With that, I also want to thank those that have pre-registered to speak. Those include Carol Everhart of the Rehoboth Beach, Dewey Beach Chamber of Commerce, Dan Slagle and Greer Manival of the Rehoboth Beach Main Street, Suzanne Good, citizen, and Walter Brittingham, citizen. I thank you for pre-registering. We look forward to your input. And of course, I will call on you at appropriate times during the meeting. With that, I'd like to remind everybody that support documents, when they are available, are embedded into the agenda, available at the city's website. Go to the city's portal, seek out the meeting date and the meeting agenda, and you should have everything in front of you that's available that we also have. With that, I'd like to identify the correspondence that we have received. You can see 3 items there. The first item is actually not related to an agenda item. It kind of snuck in there, but it is a response to a newspaper article about some actions and topics the City Street and Transportation Committee has acted on. With that, I want to go to approval of minutes. We have 4 sets of minutes, not 5. The first bullet is deleted. Regular meeting held on December 17th, 2021. Those minutes are not yet ready. So we have 4 sets of minutes to approve, including special budget workshop meeting on January 10th, 2022. Special meetings on these 3 dates, December 14th and 29th, 2021, and January 10, 2022. Are there any corrections to be made to the 4 sets of minutes I just noted? Hearing no corrections to be made, well, I'd like to get a motion to approve those 4 sets of minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
So I have a motion by Commissioner Tony Sharp and a second by Commissioner Chernowski to approve the special budget workshop meeting on January 10th, 2022 minutes. Also the minutes of the 3 special meetings, one held on December 14th and one held on December 29th, 2021, and one held on January 10th, 2022. Is there any further discussion? If not, those in favor of those 4 sets of minutes signify by saying aye, and if you would wave your hand or give a thumbs up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the minutes are approved unanimously. Thank you very much. With that, we'll keep moving along. We'll go right to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon again, commissioners and any public who are listening. I just briefly wanted to report that it's been 3 weeks since the January 3rd city manager mandate was put out addressing all city employees and requiring them to be either fully vaccinated and boosted, or if not, to produce a negative test, a negative COVID test on a weekly basis. And I'm very happy to report that all employees are in compliance with the mandate. They're either vaccinated or testing negative on a regular basis. Unfortunately, we still have some illnesses throughout the employee network. Just like the rest of the world, some employees are still testing positive with the full vaccination. However, if they are experiencing symptoms, these are milder than what was reflective in the Delta variant. And any employee who does become ill or who tests positive or who has been in close contact with another employee who tests positive, that employee is quarantining for the recommended time. We're continuing to have ServPro come in and out of the building on a frequent basis to disinfect areas that where they're needed. And my purpose, obviously, is to keep employees safe from any illness. We haven't had any indication yet to close city offices to the public, but we're playing that by ear. And just a reminder, as the mayor said, all boards and committee meetings and commissioners' meetings will remain virtual until further notice. The city continues to make progress on several off-season projects that are underway. The parking department will perform an urgent pay station software upgrade on all of the T2 meters next week. The meters will be unbagged while the upgrade is performed, and the upgrade should take approximately 20 minutes per meter, so you'll be seeing some staff out there. This week, the pavement contractor completed resurfacing of Lake Drive and most of the restriping on Olive Avenue. Next week, weather permitting, the contractor will undertake the striping on Maryland Avenue. And again, there's no parking on Maryland between 1st and 2nd Streets on Tuesday. Incidental sidewalk repairs and manhole adjustments are being done, and reconstruction of the stormwater outfall adjacent to the Bayard Avenue Bridge will begin. With relocation of the water main completed on Delaware Avenue, the concrete work on the new Comfort Station foundation has begun. And the water meter replacement contractor is about 75% through with installation of new meters in the Bay Harbor and Eagle Drive communities. They should be finished with this by mid-February. Regarding the wastewater Phase 3 improvement, bids are advertised for Phase 3 rehabilitation work, and this work primarily relates to construction of dewatering facilities at the wastewater treatment plant, and that bid went out last week. There will be a pre-bid meeting scheduled for February 1, and bids are due February 17th. The city has submitted a letter of support for the Mid-Atlantic Regional Council on the Ocean's proposal to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Marine Debris Prevention Program. If the council's proposal is selected, the city would become one of several locations across the Mid-Atlantic states to participate in this initiative, and a water bottle refill station would be installed on the boardwalk, which would assist in decreasing plastic bottle litter. So we are trying to, we have inserted ourselves in that program. And again, just a reminder that seasonal employees in the police department, the streets department, the parking department, we're working to fill those positions. The police department is utilizing a new printed recruitment oversized postcard on college campuses, and the parking department has reached out to previous seasonal employees and anticipates approximately 23 of those who will be rejoining the city this season. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of the city manager? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item of business, which is city solicitor's report. Glenn?
I don't have anything new to report other than to sort of congratulate Bert Dukes and city staff. And that may have already occurred at your earlier meeting today, but I mentioned before that the general obligation bond refunding that the city accomplished is one of the largest I've seen was good for citizens of Rehoboth Beach, saved the city a lot of money. So kudos to them. It was done with and the city manager. I mean, it was done with real great. There were no wrinkles. I mean, it was fabulous to watch it happen. So well done.
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate it. With that, we'll go to the next item of business, which is departmental reports. There are no oral reports to given, but you'll see embedded in the agenda from building and license and also from the police department. No board and commission reports have been identified. And so with that, we'll go right to the liaison reports. We'll hear from the Chamber of Commerce. Susan?
Yeah, I believe Carol's with us today.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can, Carol. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Well, I'll start with the occupancy and give you January 2020 through the end of the year and January 2021 through the end of the year for midweek. So on a Wednesday night in 2020, it was 66,850. In 2021, it was 107,216. Then we go to a highest night on the weekend, generally Saturday night, 2020. Same time frame, January 1 to the end of December, 94,225 in 2020 and 136,908 in 2021. I will move on to legislative. I'm sure you're probably aware of SB1 has been a bill that has been of great discussion lately. We did oppose the original bill as it was drafted, had a meeting with Senator McBride, it was very fruitful, and since then did a survey with our membership to make sure that our opposition to that first draft matched their concerns, and it did. This was across whether it was an accommodation, attraction, dining, real estate, retail, or a service category. They all answered basically the same way, with 80 to 90% in every category. They were very concerned about the family definition being way too broad as it was originally written. There was great concern over 80% of pay being eligible. And I would say also that one of the other main concerns was seasonal employees being included in that the way it was written, which would cause, I'll use Funland because Bill Hinsky has certainly stepped up on this and made his feelings concerned that it would, anyone running a seasonal business, this would make it very difficult to stay in business if they needed to do this for seasonal employees, J1s, hourly, that type of thing. And the other main concern on that from the businesses was if you already have a plan in place for family leave, they did not think it was a good policy to make that a current business with a plan implement the state's plan. So I know we've made progress. I understand that Senator McBride has now redrafted the bill. I've not seen it yet. So as soon as I know more on that, I will certainly let you know. There are three others that we're tracking. Before I go to that, the legalized recreational marijuana, we opposed that originally years ago. We continue to oppose that. Two reasons. One reason is that someone like, I'll use Bill Hinsky again, someone like Funland, if they have an employee that is putting children on a ride and there's no way to test, they have great concern over that. And the other reason is it could have a negative effect on tourism. So we don't want to see that happen. We are tracking SB 208, which has to do with an employer who perhaps does not pay the employee when they leave the way they should or in a timely manner. There's no position on that. We're just tracking it. And SB 211, which relates to employment practices, it really restricts employers from asking all applicants, certain questions, such as their date of birth, if they've been to an educational facility, that type of thing. We're still working on seasonal housing and workforce housing. I Can't really say we've moved mountains on that yet, but we're continuing to work on that and continue to meet on that. Should let you know that the visitor guides are nearing completion. We're hoping to send it to the printer into January. Again, we can hold some space up until about mid-February or so, and we're happy to do that. And the last thing is general membership meeting is Monday, and it's your very own Jeff Giles, your Rehoboth Beach Commissioner, as well as a former Rehoboth Beach lifeguard as speakers that day. So we hope that you'll join us. And unless you have questions, that's it.
Any questions for Carol? Thank you, Commissioner Sharp.
Just quickly, thank you, Carol, for all that important information. I'm just curious on the workforce housing.
Yes.
Are you in the brainstorming stage? Would you say you've got ideas that you're trying to flesh out, or how would you really characterize it?
We're past brainstorming. We're into researching. And when I say that, we have had conversation with businesses that have developed dorms in other areas for that type of housing. And we are identifying the best geographic areas for that. It may take more than one area given the way we're spread out. So that's where we're at.
And just one follow-up, do you think you'll have anything concrete for 2022, or are you thinking more long range?
I don't think you could possibly get it into place by 22. We may be able to identify the locations. We may be able to secure the funding or, finalize how that funding, where that funding would come from and how that would be organized. So that's the stage we're in. We know we need it. Yeah.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
Thank you, Carol. With that, we'll go to the liaison report for the Rehoboth Beach Historical Society. Commissioner Jay Legree, you're the liaison to the museum folks and Historical Society. I'll turn it over to you.
Well, as we all know, the museum's closed right now until further notice, but through the end of January for sure. And however, they're preparing for a great spring with a March 4th opening of an exhibit marking the 60th anniversary of the storm of 1962. I can't believe it's been 60 years. I just can't believe it. Next, in the month of May, they're going to have an exhibit about the history of the Cape Henlopen Lighthouse. And they plan to have an acoustic jam at the museum in July. And of course, in the piping out in September. So good stuff planned. And visit the website often and keep track and enjoy the museum. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. With that, we'll go to the liaison report for Rehoboth Beach Main Street. Commissioner Sharnowski is the liaison.
Thank you, Mayor. I just found out that Dan is unable to be on the call due to an emergency. So I'm going to, on a cuff, try to give you some updates here. They recently, just at the end of December, they've got 4 new board members and have elected new officers. So a few new faces on the board of Main Street. They have a strategic planning day planned for, I believe it's the second Saturday in April, which is going to be a day-long strategic planning session, which will be good to for them going forward. Wreaths, the Wreaths across America was very successful and very well attended by the community, and they very much appreciated the collaboration with the city, the Homeowners Association, the VIA, and other local community organizations. And they're partnering with the Gumbo Crawl this year. They may do it a little bit later than usual, just because of the uptick in COVID cases. And they've got a few other late winter and spring sort of downtown promotions they're doing, as well as the Oldies Dance, which is scheduled but may be on hold or delayed just because of the uptick in COVID cases. So that is what I have for them.
Thank you, Ed. We'll let you stay on you as you are the liaison to the Cape Henlopen Senior Center. Go ahead.
Sure. No real new updates there. I think, Mayor, as you were hoping that they'd bring back that pancake breakfast, I think because of the, and they thought they may in February, but that might be delayed just a little bit because of, again, the uptick in COVID cases.
Keep me informed. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your liaison reports. Appreciate it. With that, we are going to go to the first item of old business, which is consider appointments to membership on the Stormwater Utility Task Force. If you notice, there are two embedded support documents. One is a Stormwater Utility fact sheet that we use to create the task force. And there's also my list of nominations in there. I'd like to read from the task force sheet real quick. And that is, it indicates that this task force would be a group of 5 to 7 stakeholders with a range of interests, representatives of large impervious commercial property owners such as hotels, small business owners, residential property owners, spiritual community and or other tax exempt properties, and environmental groups are common on such task force. When we talked about it, we said the task force will be advisory to the mayor and commissioners, and that the solicitation of membership is via application. Membership is by appointment of the mayor with confirmation of the commissioners. Task force is time limited with an end date to be determined, but is expected to sunset by July 2022. And all task force meetings are open to the public and will be noticed 7 days in advance of the meeting and will comply with the Freedom of Information Act. On the other support document, you'll see I have selected to go with 7 rather than the minimum 5 members. I will share with you, if I haven't already, that I believe I have, that I was contacted by the RBHA president and asked if they could endorse a candidate. And I said, you can endorse 1 or more if you would like. Just have them put it on their application. So we do have, did have some endorsements by the Rehoboth Beach Homeowners Association. And also I shared that same offer to Sally Foreman, the president and founder of Save Our Lakes 3. And we did get some applicants, or at least one applicant that indicated that they would be endorsed by SOLA. So with that, the mayoral appointments I'm nominating in alphabetical order with some of their background are: number 1, Elise Burns. She's on the, she happens to be on the Trees and Green Infrastructure Committee, and she's endorsed by the RBHA. Number 2, Leticia Gomez. She's with the Navy for a couple decades, and she was into land management and utilities and stormwater management in the Navy. Jan Conacy is endorsed by Save Our Lakes 3. She lived on a lakeside on a lake in Dover for 40 years. She's a former planning commission member and a former commissioner in the city of Rehoboth Beach. Janice Miller. She is a current city of Fairfax council person. And in the last several years, they worked on, the city of Fairfax, they worked on and approved a utility that was created. So she must have some good knowledge. Eric Seward, he has a professional environment background, and he's an environmental committee member of the city. Bob Suppes has commercial interests, multiple interests in the city. And Bruce Williams is a former city official of Tomacoma Park He worked on utility creation in Tacoma Park, so he's got some knowledge there. He was also a former member of the utility rates work group. With that, I would seek a motion to approve the slate of nominees to membership. Anybody?
I move approval.
I'll second the nomination, or second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Ed Chernowski and a second by Commissioner Gossett to approve the slate of 7 members for the Stormwater Utility Task Force. Is there any discussion?
I have my hand up, Mayor.
Yes, you do. Go ahead, Commissioner.
I'm very troubled by how we've done this. And I have gone through the applications very carefully, as have all of the commissioners. And you selected 7 people, and they're great. They have great applications. And this is a small town, of course, so we know pretty much everybody, but they are great. They have great applications. But you also rejected a number of people who have fantastic applications. And you rejected an environment lawyer. You rejected a Harvard economist. You rejected a lawyer who is a financial advisor to major companies. She owns a brokerage. She manages $200 million worth of retirement funds. And if there's anybody that can make a good decision and have a financial interest and a moxie, it would be that person. You rejected 2 applicants who have boots on the ground. People who have maintained a lakefront. They know how much it costs to trim trees. They know that you need to plant deep-rooted plants on the lake. They've maintained theirs for, one of them in the case of 20 years and the other one in the case of over 10 years. And these are really good people that should not have been left out. I would like to see us, we had one applicant who didn't live in town or own property, but has a great application. And I would like to see us take at least those other 5 applications and put them on the task force. The task force is a big deal with a lot of data that's going to take a long time. It's going to go into the summer. We say July. I don't see how they can get this done by July. And if we go as long as I think we're going to go, you'll need a bigger task force. So I would like to see us enlarge your committee, which is really a task force, to at least 12 people, and get the expertise from these people that will need so much. I'm not belittling the members that you've chosen, but we can't lose all those good people. So I'll start that conversation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Commissioner Sharp.
I won't repeat everything that Commissioner Legree said, but I completely support where he's coming from. And I'd like to add one other thought to it. This particular issue to me is so different from any other task forces we have at the present time, I believe, because it affects all of us. There's not anybody in town that's not going to be affected by this. And I think having a broader group that can really delve into all the intricacies of this would really benefit us, as well as sending an extraordinarily positive message to our community that everyone is valued, and those that applied in good faith and are qualified are accepted.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Commissioner Sarnowski, go ahead.
Yeah, I've not seen all of the applications, so I'm not sure exactly who applied and who wasn't chosen. But I guess I'm going to ask a question. Similarly, we had the utility task force a couple years ago for the water and wastewater. How many people were on that task force, if I could ask? Does anyone know?
I believe it was, Sharon, was that 5?
I believe it was 5, Mayor.
You're muted, Sharon.
Sorry. Where am I?
She's on.
I'm sorry. I believe that was 5, Mayor.
All right, thank you.
You. Commissioner Gay? You're muted. Start again.
This is an interesting issue, and listening to Commissioner Legree and Commissioner Sharp raised some good points, and it reminded me of a couple things as I was listening to them. One is that I had a really difficult time in reviewing the applications and trying to narrow it down. I mean, a really difficult time. In fact, I'm not even sure I did. I talked about a number of people, and I'm also thinking of other sort of non-committee special groups we've had, and Baltimore Wilmington has like 16, 18 people on it.
13 citizens and 3 commissioners.
Right, but okay, so that's a large group. I'm pretty sure the parking advisory had 8 or 10 as well. I kind of remember that. But anyway, so I think it's an interesting idea and would certainly give us more expertise and greater involvement. So, I like the idea.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bennett?
Yes, as somebody who had asked to be on committees or volunteered and was not selected, I understand what the thought would be. And I think anytime we have a hand raiser in the city, because I too, like the other commissioners, was very impressed by the level and quality of people that had raised their hands to say they want to serve. And I think this is one case where this is such a huge issue that I would be for allowing us to expand the stormwater management group to include the others as well, because I too had difficulties trying to say, who should serve and who shouldn't. And I think when somebody does raise their hand in a town like this and says they want to serve, I think I'm all for that. So I would be supportive of enlarging it.
Thank you. Commissioner Gossett, please.
Yes, thank you. I would also be in support of expanding this committee. To follow along, looking over the applications kind of was a Sophie's choice type of thing. And the fact of there's so many good applicants and what have you. And I do look back on 2 factors that I think we should also consider. When I was organizing the architectural task force, we had 15 members on that. And as was mentioned, there are 18 members on the streetscape task force. But as is designed in the outline here, this particular task force will be professionally facilitated by AECOM. So having someone that has that talent skill or those skill sets to facilitate and manage a group that's a little larger than others have been, I think is a very positive aspect, and will get the work done, keep people on track. And it's been my experience with the task force of architectural task force, people's schedules change and emergencies happen and what have you. So that not necessarily would we have all people at the meeting at each particular meeting. So I think that would also aspect of just scheduling allow for a much larger or a larger task force for this particular group. And as mentioned also, this subject touches everybody in the city, as did the architectural task force. So again, I would just support the expansion of this to include all those interested parties. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I had a little premonition that this was coming. Goodness gracious. I didn't know it'd be so unanimous, but I'd like to respond. I'd like to go back to the utility work group that was formed. It was 5 members that was formed to the previous administration. It was formed in secrecy and first met in secrecy until the AG, Attorney General, received a complaint and ruled in violation of FOIA that we weren't being transparent. That was previous administration. Then after that, the parking garage task force was developed by the previous administration. And I spoke out about that process at a meeting, saying that creation of that parking garage task force needed to be transparent and should be done in front of the public. And as soon as that meeting was over, with lightning speed, following that public meeting where I spoke out, the task force was formed out of the public eye. What a damn shame that was. Then on my tenure, the Wilmington-Baltimore Avenue Task Force Streetscape was created. It was initiated by me, interested in pursuing this topic, but it was created by the commissioners in a public forum and voted on by the commissioners and approved in a public forum. It had 16 members. Patrick, you said 18. It's got 16 members, 13 citizens, and 3 commissioners. The selection process was easy. There were so many, we wanted to keep it at a handleable, controllable number. So we limited the 3 commissioners and the 13 members, and we just picked the first 13 that lived in town and met the qualifications. So that worked fairly easily. It's interesting how all these committees seem to be the most controversial of a lot of topics that we talk about. Then came along the Stormwater Utility Task Force. This was initiated by the city administration with mission statements developed by the city administration and put it on and voted on and adopted by the commissioners. Voted on and adopted by the commissioners. What did we use to do that? We looked at a task force fact sheet that the membership would be 5 to 7. That's what we voted on. We also said the appointment would be by mayor with confirmation of the commissioners. And the Board of Commissioners voted on and approved those task force criteria. So we put out the call for applications. They came in. After they were received, I solicited input and rankings from the commissioners and city staff. And selections were made out of those recommendations that came back to me. And I notified the nominees that I would be submitting their nominations. I also notified those that weren't selected. I thought that was a courtesy to do that I don't think's ever been done before, frankly. So I let that, and I received a complaint that I notified from a commissioner that I notified some applicants that weren't selected. How dare me to notify somebody that they weren't accepted into this program. But you know, it's interesting because those that did return, that weren't accepted and returned emails, were very gracious in their response to me. Those commissioners that contacted me after learning of the nominations list were anything but gracious. And that really upsets me. So what I'm having to have had to deal with all these complaints for a couple commissioners, you know, to accommodate, such as the following. To accommodate my recommendation, you should increase the number of membership. Well, remember, this group is the one that voted on 5 to 7 members. You know, the Wilmington-Baltimore Task Force had more than 13 members applied. 20 some, I believe, almost 30 maybe. Should every one of those, to apply your philosophy, every one of those has to be accepted for membership on that grade? There's got to be limits. It's got to be doable and tolerable. I tell you, it's a challenge with these big groups. Other complaints from commissioners. The selection was done in the dark. How in the world could it be done in the dark? You all had access to every application that came in, and I asked you for your input. Now, only 4.5 of you responded because a half is from one commissioner that only submitted 1 recommendation, but the others gave me 5, 6, or 7 recommendations. You all had that opportunity, but 2 didn't even participate, period. So how could it be done in the dark? I got another complaint. How dare me solicit from city staff? Well, right in the task force fact sheet, it says that we are going to have that group work with and advise the city staff. Why wouldn't I go to them? I gave more weight to the commissioner responses than the city staff, but why do I have to avoid talking to the city staff? That's my choice, and I weigh it according to what I believe is right. And then I get a threat I'm not going to vote on the whole slate if you don't approve my recommendation. What bullshit is this? I'm sorry, I can't hold it back. You know, we're going to get on with business. We have a motion on the floor that to adopt my slate of 7 members. You know, by how you vote sends a message, and I'll have to react to it. But we have a motion on the floor. We need to go ahead and carry through with that. So if there's no further discussion, I'd like to call the question after I get public input. Let me go to public input first. Patrick, your hand is up, and so is Jay Legree. Is that new, or is that?
Oh, mine's new.
Okay. Well, before I go to the public, then I'll go back to you, to Commissioner Legree. Go ahead.
When we did the utility rate working group, most of the data was handled by Matt Abrams, if you recall, and it made the job of the committee members much easier. And they had access to the numbers from Bert, and they had Kevin to facilitate those numbers. So the utility, the wastewater group had a much simpler job, and they had a lot of work to do. So I still think we should enlarge the group to 12 and accept those members that were rejected. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Patrick, did you put your hand back up?
I did, actually. You know, I just kind of, your remarks, Mayor, I hear what you're saying, but I really think that we need to look at this, that the complaints issued among whomever, whatever coming about, are not against you personally, at all means. I think it is the affirmative argument that more viewpoints get us to a better result in this instance. We have people that are knowledgeable in the subject, and as was mentioned, this touches everybody in the city. I really think that, you know, the better results, the more input that we have, the better results that we'll have for our taxpayers. So I think citizens' input is something that's very good to have. You know, you talked about transparency. The more views that come to the table, the more transparent we have and more viewpoints. So I still think that, you know, we really want an affirmative agreement to move forward on this. Thank you.
Well, you know, these are open to the public, and they can come and participate also. So again, you have to have a reasonable number. Now, if you keep saying 12, there's actually 13 applicants. Some applicants filed after a deadline. I chose to extend the deadline not once, but twice. Yeah, it appears to me that some of this is the desire to get friends and neighbors on it. So I can't keep track here. Patrick, are you done?
Well, I just say, I think, again, not looking at the motivations or reasonings behind this, but the more voices at the table, the more experience we have at the table, the better result we will get. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Legree again?
Yes, I'm moved by what Tim Bennett said. He tried to get on a committee and just didn't work. And here's our chance. We can have a great committee of, most of them are newcomers, some are not, but and they are good people. I just can't get over the quality of the applications. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Gay?
Yeah, I was rereading while you were talking the fact sheet, and in addition to some of the things you said, and you're right, it does say 5 to 7, and we did vote on it. But among the other things it says is very specific meeting agendas, and how there's going to be 6 of them, and how it's all going to be done by July. And I'm reminded of 2 things. First, that at least one of the people who's going to be serving on the task force had been through this process before. And I mean, they specifically told me it took 2 years. I mean, I'm hoping, I don't want ours to take that long because we need it to be in place, first of all. But so those dates and those agendas could change too. And so I guess what I'm saying is, maybe the fact sheet's not carved in stone, but but equally importantly is that you had expressed some concern, and I had some concern too, about travel schedules for people. And so I just, I think there's every likelihood that the meetings will not have 100% attendance. And so that's just yet another reason to, I can understand if there were 20 or 30 applicants, but we're so close to what, we're so close to being able to be inclusive and at the same time have a good group. So I don't know if, there should be a friendly amendment to have 12 or what, but I just think we're close.
Thank you. Commissioner Srnowski?
Yeah, I just want to say that I mean, I understand where a lot of you are coming from, but I do tend to agree with you, Mayor, and I like to be in the minority, so I guess I am this time. As the mayor said, we do have a lot of expertise in the city, and not everyone can attend meetings all the time. And that's why we encourage the public to come and speak and participate. The one thing that is giving me pause now is Commissioner Bennett's comment. I think there were, and this is partly my fault, because I said that I would want someone from the Environment Committee to be on such a task force. Now that I've seen all the applications and others that do have a very strong environment background, I'm not sure that I think it's necessary at this point. So my concern is that we've got 3 people that you've nominated that are already serving on a committee, and there's others that have applied that have equal or good expertise that want to serve and haven't. That is or aren't being allowed to in some way within the city. That is my only pause at this point. So that's my only thought.
All right, thank you. How I'd like this to proceed is to call the question. I'm going to go to the public, and then we'll call the question on it. And then based on that result, we'll discuss the next steps. Members of the public, Carol, do you have anything you want to say? Suzanne, good?
No comment. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Suzanne. Walter Brittingham?
Carol.
Oh, I'm sorry. Carol, thank you. Suzanne, are you there?
Good afternoon. You're able to hear me,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, full disclosure, I was one of those endorsed by the Homeowners Association to serve, and I was not selected. But I want to start by saying when I did see the list of those selected, after actually graciously thanking Mayor Mills for informing me that I had not been selected. So I didn't have a big problem with that, but I did have a problem. Well, one minor thing, I'm hearing that someone who is neither a property owner nor a resident might be among the 13, but I'm hoping you mean that you would exclude that person, because that was something that was decided in terms of having any voting authority. We would not be allowing people who aren't stakeholders, who pay property taxes or who have leases. But my main concern is that one of the people who's being proposed served already on the utility rates working group in 2019. And I'm concerned because this person did not raise any reservations about a small town with the parameters we have of a lot of large commercial users, but smaller residential users. This person didn't raise any concerns that the flat rate structure, which was pushed and which was adopted, was the equitable and the right one for Rehoboth Beach. So I was disappointed to see this person being brought back 2 years later for 2.5 years later for a similar project. So on that basis alone, I have a lot of reservations about the current roster.
Thank you, Suzanne.
However, I do see that a lot of the other candidates are highly qualified, highly able people. I'm not questioning the rationale for them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne. Walter, you said no?
No, that's not what I said. Excuse me.
Go ahead.
The first item is, who would likely be the head up the stormwater utility task force? A commissioner or a city person or one of these people elect a leader?
It may be AECom, the consultant, that'll run the meetings.
Okay. And the other question, and I'll come back to that. Of the list that you have, and I know some of the people on the list, but who of the list are residents? I concede that some of these people sound very qualified, but I don't have the information that you have. So who of the people 1 to 7 are residents?
Well, what are you trying to ascertain? Because we have a committee policy that says to be a voting member of a committee, you have to be either a resident or a property owner or have a business interest. And all the applicants that I have nominated fit that bill.
How many are residents?
I mean, here full time?
Yes.
I think 2.
I'm a little concerned about that, and if that's one more reason to have more people on it, I think it would be nice if we have qualified people to have a couple more people that are truly residents. My last thought projected was, and I sat in on all but one of the rate structure meetings, and what disturbed me most was at one of the meetings, Public Works Director asked Mayor Coons, "Mr. Mayor, what is it you want done here?" And I would just hope that the committee can come forth with a consensus, a professional consensus, that we get what we need, because it's going to turn into money, and the people need to know that we got the best plan possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. We'll go back to the commissioners before I do a roll call vote. Commissioner Chernowski, your hand's still up or? Nope. You're done. Commissioner Patrick Gossett, did you put your hand up again, please?
Yes, I did. I just, your comment, I don't know if I misheard you or not, but you said the possible chair of this meeting or overseer will be AECom. Is that not a confirmed fact that AECom will be facilitating and running the meeting?
I believe so. Sharon, are you there? Kevin?
Yes, Mayor, that's correct. We have AECom as the consultant that's going to lead us through that.
Right. Again, the next step is, Ed, you have one more thing?
Yeah, I just want to, is that the same exact process that we followed or structure that we followed in the other task force for the utility group? It was the Abrams group that chaired those meetings. Is that correct? We're following the same process?
Commissioner, this is Kevin Williams. If I recall, which I certainly do, I was the chair of that task force, and then the Abrams group provided the data collection and a lot of the data input, but that I was the actual chair for that.
But that will not be the case with this stormwater task force. Is that what I understand?
Kevin, Commissioner Gossett's asking you to repeat who the intended chair of this task force is.
No, my question was, I'm sorry, I heard what his response was, but he stated that as he was the chair of the rate task force, and I'm just stating, as I understand it from the comments made by you, Mayor, that the stormwater utility task force would be chaired by AECom and facilitated. Is that?
That's what I said, and that's what Kevin just confirmed.
That's
okay?
correct.
Thank you. I didn't hear Mr. Williams say that.
Yeah, he did. He did. Commissioner Gay?
Yeah, I just, on the, somebody asked the question about the number that were residents. Of this list of 7, I only see one that's a full-time resident, and I see another one that's a business owner, not a resident, and the rest are non-resident property owners, for what that's worth. I don't know, I can't remember the others that didn't get selected, how many of them are residents, but I think there's only one on this list.
Please, let's do a roll call vote and end my pain on this, and then we'll talk about the next steps.
Excuse me, Mayor, can I just offer one sidebar?
Kevin, yes.
This one's just a little different in my mind, and the reason we tried to keep it small is we don't want it overpowered by a particular interest group, because this task force or this committee is going to come up with recommendations that apply may apply differently to businesses and residents. So to have a committee made up of 11 residents and 1 businessman, it might sway the vote of that task force. Where we want to try to keep it, we have, if I recall the numbers, we had 1 nonprofit, which we were trying to get. We have a couple of residents. We have a representative of the homeowner association. We have a business. We have a couple of big condo reps. So the bigger buildings with a lot of impervious area, and we've got residents, individual residents with smaller homes and on a typical 50 by 100 lot, that kind of thing. So I would be a little concerned if we have 12 of one flavor and 1 of another as we look at spreading these costs appropriately across the various interest groups.
Okay, Jay, your hand is up. You're going to delay my vote one more time. Go ahead.
You let Kevin say some things that just weren't true. We have such a high quality group of applicants that they're not going to sandbag anything. And in response to the last thing that Mr. Williams said, you have rejected 2 folks who live on the lake, who maintain the lakefront, who plant trees, plant shrubs, take care of the lakefront. And why do we reject them? They are stormwater enthusiasts from the word go. And you could sit here all day and argue about stuff like this, but I think this task force needs to be raised set to 12. And if you want to include that non-resident, that non-stakeholder, by the way, the commercial fella I think he said he's a triple net, and that makes him a stakeholder from the word go. And yeah, thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Patrick, I hope you're the last.
Yeah, just one last comment with regards to the makeup of the committee, and the majority of who will be affected by this are residents, not necessarily businesses or nonprofits or condo users. The majority of we have individual single-family homes, and that's who makes up the majority of our users in the city. So I think to make it representative of the city is exactly what we would offer with expanding this with the applications that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to squeeze in there. Roll call vote. We have
Mayor,
yes,
all of
ma'am.
a sudden I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Not really.
Not like before.
I don't know what's going on.
That's better.
You're better there. Well, make you look at me a little closer. We have a motion on the floor and a second to approve the mayor's nominations of Elise Burns, Letitia Gomez, Jan Conacy, Janice Miller, Eric Seward, Bob Suppies, and Bruce Williams. All those do a roll call vote, and then after this, we'll talk further. Commissioner Jay Legree?
No.
Commissioner Tony Sharp?
No.
Commissioner Ed Chernowski?
Yes, and I just want to say that, Kevin Williams' explanation just made perfect sense to me. And I said that I had polls with some of the people already serving on a city committee, But in my mind and how I viewed these confirmations is it's the mayor's job to nominate and ours to only confirm. And I've only abstained or voted no when I believe there was a conflict of interest with one of the nominees. So I vote aye for those reasons.
Thank you. Commissioner Gossett,
No.
Commissioner Bennett,
I'm going to abstain. I don't want to vote against the slate, but I'm going to abstain.
Commissioner Gay,
And I'm going to abstain as well for similar reasons. It's a wonderful slate. I just like to see it even more wonderful. It's a great group of people, and I'm looking forward to the whole group getting together. But I just have concerns were raised today that got to me, so I'm going to abstain as well.
thank you. And the chair votes aye for the motion. The motion fails. The mayor is just trying to do what you approved, what we approved, and that was my goal here. If you have a change of heart, fine, but you don't need to bash me and complain and do all that. I'm very offended at that. So the next step is that we'll likely see this on a future agenda. With that, this topic has ended. The next item of old business is to consider an ordinance to amend Chapter 253, trees of the Municipal Code by deleting Section 253-20 and inserting a new Section 253-20, establishing a 30-day time period to file an appeal of a Parks and Shade Tree Commission decision, and establishing that such appeals are on the record and subject to the substantial evidence standard of review. You should have a support document that document in front of you. Here we go. Important to note for the transparency that this is the second time we have seen a portion of this. Glenn, I might need your help. We talked about this before, about inserting some kind of appeal so that you can't be seeking an appeal 6 months or even 3 years later, which has happened. But there are 2 additional addendums that Glenn added in here. And if you're not comfortable voting on it, fine, we'll reintroduce it in February workshop and vote on it at the February regular meeting. They are minor, so I'm leaving it up to you all. But Glenn, if you could explain the 3 points of this. First point, of course, is the 30-day limit, and then there's 2 other points that we added to it.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to read what the new ordinance would state, and I wanted to read the old one too, but unfortunately my computer locked up and I'm not able to read the current version of it. But the new version would say, any person aggrieved by the final decision of the Parks and Shade Tree Commission may appeal said decision in writing to the city commissioners within 30 days after the date of the decision by filing with the city commissioners a written notice of appeal. Appeal shall be considered by reviewing the record of the proceeding before the Parks and Shade Tree Commission and determining if there is sufficient evidence supporting the Parks and Shade Tree Commission's decision and if such decision is free from legal error. An administrative appeal fee in the amount of $250 shall be paid to the city upon filing of a notice of appeal. So that this was initiated by ensuring that an appeal was taken within some time period. This inserts a 30-day window to file that appeal. But the other thing that's come up during at least the last couple appeals is whether the appeal should be on the record or whether it should be an appeal de novo, meaning a brand new appeal where you hear all the evidence new. An on the record appeal is you take the record that the Planning Commission take the record that the Parks and Shade Tree Commission had before it, and then you determine under this ordinance if the decision was, if there's substantial evidence supporting the decision and whether it's free from legal error, which is the substantial evidence test that's applied many times in administrative appeals. So I kind of wanted to give a little bit of legal framework for these appeals so that it's clear that it's an on the record appeal subject to the substantial evidence standard. So those are the 2 things I inserted. As the mayor said, that was not something that you directed me to do. It was something that I've noticed in past ones. So if you want to delete that or do something different, obviously you can, but I thought it would help when the next one's filed, if there is another one filed, to help inform the commissioners how the appeal should proceed.
Thank you, Glenn. I think the two addendums are absolutely necessary, and it needs to be considered as a package. So it'd be a matter of whether the commissioners feel comfortable voting on it today, or if they would like an additional month's notice on it. Commissioner Gossett?
Yes, thank you. That was one of my major questions there. Solicitor, on line 17, it says shall be considered by reviewing the record of the proceedings. So does that language indicate that it is a hearing on the record?
Yes.
Okay. And is that not currently the procedure followed by the Planning Commission on an appeal, so that it is on the record and not de novo?
That's correct.
So we would be keeping consistent with established policy already within the city, stating that it would be on the record.
That's right. Yep.
Thank you. I would be I'm confident going forward with these proposed amendments as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner. If there's no further commissioner comment, I want to go to the members of the public. By the way, can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hear me better? I had Verizon come and do something in the middle. Carol Everhart, would you like to comment on anything on this topic?
No, sir, no comment.
Thank you, Carol. Suzanne Good?
No comment, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. Walter?
No comment, thank you.
Thank you all. Is there any further discussion? If not, can we have a motion and a second to amend Chapter 253, Section 253-20 relating to appeals to the Board of Commissioners from a decision of the Parks and Shade Tree Commission?
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Patrick Gossett and a second by Commissioner Sharnowski to adopt and amend Chapter 253 trees, specifically 253-20 relating to appeals to the Board of Commissioners from a decision of the Parks and Shade Tree Commission. And I'm referring to version of January 13th, authored by Glenn Dallas. Is there any further discussion? If not, then I'll call the question. Roll call vote. Commissioner Sharp?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharnowski?
Aye.
Commissioner Bennett?
Aye.
Commissioner Gay?
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett?
Aye.
Commissioner Legree?
Aye.
And the mayor votes aye. The vote is unanimous. It is adopted. Thank you very much. With that, all right, next item of business is status of Sussex County's request to purchase a portion of the city's ocean outfall capacity. I received a letter yesterday from the county, and I'd like to read it to you. To Stanley A. Mills Jr., Mayor, City of Rehoboth Beach. Dear Mayor Mills /Stan, per your request, this is from Todd Lawson, County Administrator, by the way, on his letterhead. Per your request, I write regarding Sussex County's offer to purchase additional ocean outfall capacity from the City of Rehoboth. First, I want to applaud you for having the courage and fortitude to bring our proposal forward so the commissioners could consider expanding our partnership. Since our first discussions in 2021, we knew this would generate an intense debate among your commissioners and citizens alike. We were not mistaken. We have paid close attention to your commission meetings while you and your colleagues reviewed the county's offer, including the last meeting held on January 10th, 2022. Based on the outcome of the January 10th meeting, it is clear we are at an impasse and must move on. As such, the county will continue with our expansion plans at our other facilities and forego our pursuit with Rehoboth Beach. Thank you and your staff for the countless hours you spent on the topic, and please pass along our appreciation to the entire commission for their thoughtful consideration and debate of the county's proposal. While we had hoped for a different result, we certainly understand and appreciate their position. So obviously you can read into that topic is dead, it's gone, and will not be back on the table. Commissioner Sharnowski?
Yeah, I would just like to publicly state that that is incredibly unfortunate. There was some incredibly good opportunity for Rehoboth and the citizens, and financial obligations that we have in the future. And in the long run, this costs the city. It's going to cost the city a lot of money.
You had. With that, I'm not going to take public comment on this because what it is moot. If there no further discussion by the commissioners, we'll move to the next item of old business, which is to consider a resolution to set a public hearing to be held on the subject of amending the Rehoboth Beach Zoning Map referred to at Chapter 270, Section 270-7 of the Municipal Code of Rehoboth Beach, and the zoning district boundaries as referred to at Chapter 270, Section 270-8 by rezoning a portion of the property located at 330 Rehoboth Avenue, Sussex County tax parcel, as noted, from R1 Single Family Residential District to C1 Central Commercial District. And if you note, the support documents embedded in the agenda include the draft resolution that we will be acting on today if we get a motion, Morris James' original application of June 2019, and the Planning Commission minutes of their very last meeting where they addressed this and voted on it, and dated December 10th, 2021. Now, if you recall at the last meeting, Glenn, help me out here. There are two options to go. There's one option is that we adopt this resolution and set the public hearing and conduct the public hearing. The other option, I believe you indicated, Glenn, at the last meeting, was that they could either not make a motion, not second it, or just vote it down and end it here. Is that true?
That's right. It's like any other zoning proposal. If there's not interest in moving forward with a public hearing, you're not obligated to do so, but it is an option today to vote to go forward to the public hearing and take public comment.
And if you would explain Exhibit A, it's condensed here. You indicated that if this resolution passed to set a public hearing, that there's an additional language to insert in here.
That's right, Mayor. I'm actually brought up another computer to bring it up. I'm sorry about that. So as the resolution sits, so it basically is a resolution to set a public hearing on an ordinance to change the zoning map. So the next step is if you were to go forward with setting a public hearing, I would draft an ordinance that directs the zoning map to be changed so that the entire property would have the commercial designation versus the split zoning that it currently has. And that's what you would eventually vote on after the public hearing.
Thank you. So if anybody does want to make a motion to this, then we would want to insert the day 18th of February at 2:00 p.m. And does that give us enough time to notice this and publish it as a public hearing? I didn't give her warning. I was going to ask on it. The answer is yes. I know the answer to that. So discussion among the commissioners. We've got Commissioner Czerniawski.
Yeah, I apologize if this question has already probably been answered many times. I've not followed it on the Planning Commission meetings. By looking at the map, I mean, it's the parcel or the piece in question is already being used commercially, is it not?
Mayor, can't hear you again.
Okay. Hello.
You're back. You're back.
I'm getting closer. There you go.
I think it's the papers covering your computer.
That may be. Show me where my microphone is next time you come here. There we go. I'm sorry to cut you off, Ed. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just asking, I guess, Glenn, the property's being used commercially. What?
So that rear portion that's currently zoned residentially has a parking area on it. We think the parking area probably predated zoning, or there's been some explanation as to how that property, that portion of the property remained residential designation. And it has to do with how two separate maps were filed years ago and then brought together. And there was kind of a missing portion, and it was that portion that's residential. And when the map, the explanation that the applicant gave was basically that that portion was never properly zoned because it wasn't shown on either of the maps that were platted. So we think that's how it was ultimately shown as that the explanation from the applicant is that is how it was ultimately shown as residential. But we think that the parking area predated zoning in Rehoboth Beach. But it is being used in connection with a commercial endeavor, yes.
So probably the cleanest thing is to go to public hearing and give the applicant their time in front of the commissioners. But I would understand also if the commissioners said, well, the planning commission made the decision for them, so to speak. But again, if we're going to go forward with this, then it would be best probably to offer a motion to adopt this resolution, setting a public hearing on 18th of February at 2 o'clock. Further discussion, Commissioner Gay?
Yeah, I would just say that this is a complex issue. Commissioner Schnowski had said he hadn't been following it, and I think for the public hearing, if we move forward with that, that we should have the documents available. And I'm not trying to create more work for Ann. I think it can probably be simply done through links to some previous meetings. But there are probably 25 or 30 public correspondence. There was a great deal of detailed discussion at the planning commission level, and many of the issues, not only its past use and the history, but the fact that what the rezoning means for the future. And I don't remember all he talked about, but at any rate, there are a lot of issues. And so I hope that we can find a way to link at least to the document center where we can find materials to review on that.
Any further discussion?
Yes, I just have a technical question. If we go to a public hearing like this, and this is a question, I guess, for the city solicitor, who represents the planning commission at that hearing?
I don't think there's a representative of the planning commission at that hearing. Typically, the planning commission makes a recommendation, which it has done in this instance through written form, and that is the recommendation. I suppose that the chair could appoint somebody to be present to answer questions if there are questions directly to the planning commission why they recommended what they recommended. But in the past, and there hasn't been many rezonings, so I wouldn't say there's established precedent for how you as commissioners evaluate these. But I don't recall in the past the planning commission sending a representative or sending their counsel to represent the planning commission in the public hearing.
Thank you. I just think if it is a public hearing, that all parties should be represented. So just my thoughts.
Commissioner Bennett's next, and then Commissioner Sharnowski. Commissioner Bennett?
Yeah, I've watched along with the planning commission, but I guess my question would be too, and I would be supportive of the public hearing, is has our city planner weighed in on this? Tom West?
The city planner prepared a report that does a very, very good job of in fact, if you're looking for someplace to start to learn about these circumstances, his report is an excellent kind of overview, not making a recommendation one way or the other, but a good overview of what was presented before the planning commission.
I believe if you go back to the January 10th workshop agenda and look at the embedded agenda items, I believe that's where you'll find when we first talked about this being on the agenda today, and it has Tom West's response as well as the application and many other documents. So you'd be able to do some homework there.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Sharnowski?
Yeah, I hate to ask this, but do we have, Solicitor, do we have any legal liability not considering rezoning, given that it's currently and previously been used in a commercial manner? Is there case law on that?
Should we be getting into that versus considering a resolution?
Yeah, I my apologies. I would move that we consider a resolution to set a public hearing to be held on the subject of amending the Rehoboth Beach zoning map referred to at chapter 270, section 270-7 of the Municipal Code of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and the zoning district boundaries as referred to at chapter 270, section 270-8 by rezoning a portion of property located at 330 Rehoboth Avenue, Sussex County, tax parcel number 334-14-17-139.00 from R1 to C1.
And on what date would that public hearing be? 18th of February at 2 o'clock?
Yes, sir. 18 February, 2 o'clock.
All right, thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Ed Stronowski and a second by Commissioner Tim Bennett to adopt a resolution as read, setting a public hearing on February 18th at 2 p.m. In the matter noted. Is there any further discussion? Since this is setting a public hearing, I'm not going to take public comment. And if there's no commissioner discussion, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Commissioner Ed Stronowski.
Aye.
Commissioner Tim Bennett.
Aye.
Commissioner Gay.
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett.
Aye.
Commissioner Legree.
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp.
Aye.
And the mayor votes aye. It's unanimous, adopting a resolution to schedule a public hearing in this matter. Thank you very much. We'll go on to the next item of old business. And that's a continuation of the addressing parking issues. I'm not going to read them all here, but you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 items to talk. Some of these items are, the desire is to vote on them today and get those out of the way. The desire for 2 of them is to at least have discussion, and if we're ready, to have a possible vote on them. And then 4 items under number E3 are merely on there for discussion only. There's no need to rush those, but we would continue discussion at the likely at the February workshop if they're not disposed of today. And then a possible vote on those last 4, 3A, B, C, and D at the February regular meeting. With that, you can see all the support documents that accompany these discussions. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Evan Miller.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, and members of the public. So first on the agenda is a discussion of a proposed change in the permit parking program at the Douville Beach parking lot. You'll recall this was discussed briefly at our last meeting on January 10th. So as you know, the parking program and system in the city of Rehoboth Beach has become much more efficient over the last few years. We've made significant investments in enforcement technology, being the license plate recognition system, and also the consolidation of a lot of the vendors that we have out there now. So the proposed change to the Douville Beach operations is continuing with that mindset of using those investments in our technology, as well as trying to move towards, again, the consolidation of our vendors. So included in the agenda is a support document which describes the current operations at Douville Beach, which we've sort of termed a physical permit system, as well as the brief description of the proposed operations, which we've termed sort of the virtual permit system. So I'll just briefly touch on this high level. So currently how Doughville Beach operates is all parking permits are accepted at the Doughville Beach parking lot. That includes transferable permits that are issued free to residents, non-transferable permits that are also issued free, as well as any permits that are sold through the parking department or at any of the kiosks located either on Bayard Avenue or Rehoboth Avenue. So in the event that a resident or visitor does have an existing program or a permit, it's a valid permit, they enter the Doughville Beach parking lot, they stop, there's a physical attendant there that just verifies whether or not they have a permit. If they do have a valid permit, they're allowed to enter the lot and park. If the resident or visitor does not have a permit, they can purchase a daily permit at Doughville Beach from the attendant. The cost for the weekday is $15. The weekend is $20. So they'll purchase the permit from the attendant, and then they enter the lot and they park. The challenge with this right now is that having an attendant at the lot and verifying that the visitor or resident is displaying a permit or needs to be sold a permit requires every vehicle entering Doughville Beach to stop and speak with the attendant. And I address, some of that concern towards the end of the support document. Just that, we've seen, especially during times of high volume down at Doughville Beach, that it can cause traffic to back up along the shoulder of Henlopen Avenue and also along the travel lane of Surf Avenue, which leads to some unsafe environments for pedestrians and bicyclists in the area. I've been told that the police department's been asked to go out and assist in some situations where just the traffic has backed up so bad. Additionally, it requires us to staff the lot daily during the parking season from 8 a.m. until 3:30 p.m. We typically have 2 attendants. They rotate days, so 1 attendant works the lot every single day during the parking season. It's approximately 18 weeks, about a little bit over 30 hours every week for both attendants. And then it also requires us to have change for the sale of parking permits down there. Right now, we do operate as a cash-only operation down there. So that certainly creates some issues as well. If somebody is waiting in line to get into the lot, they finally reach the attendant, they don't have change, and they have to leave the lot and go find cash to pay the attendant for the permit. So that prior to, and that change where all parking permits are accepted at Doughville Beach was actually changed back in 2019. Prior to that, Doughville Beach was sort of considered its own parking lot. So daily permits for Doughville Beach were sold. Seasonal permits were also sold for Doughville Beach. But Doughville was a separate parking lot, if you will, in the sense that a Doughville Beach specific permit had to be purchased. So moving towards the proposed operations with the virtual permit system, the recommendation is to go back to a Doughville Beach specific permit. So in this case, the daily parking permits would be sold still at Doughville Beach, but they would have to be purchased from either a pay station that would be located within the parking lot or through the Park Mobile app. By doing this, this actually allows us to accept credit cards down at the parking lot and implement Park Mobile, which we currently do not do. So the requirements in order to do this are to install 3 pay stations with signage, and then also just change the enforcement method down there to license plate recognition. Right now, too, we do have down there, we sell I think I mentioned the weekday daily permits are $15. The weekend daily permits are $20. And then we also have a tiered rate structure for RVs, because in the code, there's a provision that allows RVs to park at the Doughville Beach parking lot. So right now, when the change was made back in 2019, again, a tiered rate structure was set up. So Any vehicles that are 20 to 30 feet in length require a payment of $30 for the weekday, $40 for the weekend. And if they're 30 to 40 feet in length, it requires a $45 permit for the weekday, $60 for the weekend. So that again involves our attendant getting out there, measuring the vehicles and selling them the appropriate permit for the appropriate amount. The virtual permit system, what we would propose to do is keep right now, at least what we're proposing is to keep the weekday daily the same, that it has been $15, weekend daily $20, but we would like to pursue just a flat rate for RV parking. We're still exploring locations of where we would designate RV parking spaces. But again, just to go back to a flat rate, if we were to go towards a metered system, basically if we kept that tiered structure, we'd rely on the RV owner to self-certify their length. So those are the proposed changes. I'd be happy to discuss any questions with the commissioners.
Hey, thank you, Evan. I want to explain to everybody, if you didn't already, that this is first on our topic for discussion. The hope would be that if we come to a conclusion on this, then this helps us later on when we vote in to authorize, if we authorize the city manager to purchase additional Luke Cosmos parking meters. The number would reflect whether we go with this option or not. It's interesting. I know people that from out of town and in town that love Douville Beach. That's their place and they're going to it. And some of them back in 2019 when it was being changed, we're just frustrated that we were changing it because they wanted, the ones that I talked to, they wanted a higher price to keep out some of the local or some people so that it wouldn't be so dense and packed on the beach. But then again, we recently just heard from a local that likes and is used to the regular parking permit working down there so that they don't have to pay a premium. So I don't have a decision yet on this. We'll go to Tim Bennett, Susan Gay, and Ed Chernowski, please. Commissioner Bennett.
Thank you. Thanks, Evan. That was my question, what the mayor just mentioned. Will the residence permits still be valid down there?
They would not. The reason being that they're physical permits, and the way that we enforce now is by license plate. So by going to the virtual permit system, the permits would be purchased and associated with a license plate number, and that would allow us to use the enforcement technology that we already employ in the metered areas of town to enforce down there. If we were to do a hybrid system where we have a virtual permit, but we also still allow physical permits to be there, we run into issues because the enforcement system, the license plate recognition system, would alert the officer, the enforcement officers, to vehicles that have a physical permit because they're not paid via license plate. So if half of the lot, even 2/3 or half the lot has resident permits or physical permits, that would be a lot of stops for the enforcement officer to actually have to stop, get out of the vehicle, walk around to the front of the vehicle and check for a permit. And it just bogs down the system and would slow down enforcement tremendously down there using that hybrid approach.
Yeah, well, I support the overall thought on Doughville. I don't like us taking anything away from the residents. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Well, what it's going to do is the locals I was talking about that love using the permits that they buy or that they get and use them down at Douville, they're not going to be able to do that anymore. So they're going to end up paying a premium and either have to choose to not go to Douville or not. It's a little frustrating for me. Commissioner Gay?
Yeah, I agree with what Commissioner Bennett just said. I don't want to see, I do appreciate the technology, especially the fact that it can be charged and it's not all cash. The only downside on that part of the equation is the loss of, of a job or two jobs, and, would hope that they would be employed elsewhere, but it still is the, number of heads, I guess, goes down overall, and that's not a good thing. But at any rate, so there's clearly some advantages even for the visitor, but I don't, the residents or property owners have very few benefits, especially when it comes to parking. We see that all the time, and I hate to take away something like that for them. I really do.
Thank you. Commissioner Czerniawski?
Thank you. I've been struggling with this as well, for the reasons that Commissioner Bennett and Gay just mentioned. And I've been trying to think of a hybrid solution. And Kevin, the one thing that just kind of came to mind is, why could we not do a kiosk pay station, but use the printout dashboard display tickets, and not utilize the vehicles that do the license plate, but have one of the bike cops or enforcement guys just look at the dashboards?
That would have to be something we look into. I mean, right now, we do not have the bicycle officers patrolling down at Douville Beach. The attendant is sort of the individual who not only sells the permits, but also is sort of the enforcement mechanism, because nobody can even get into the lot without having a permit.
But we have.
Go ahead.
Sorry, we do have we have people on foot or on bikes doing Henlopen, Columbia Avenues, right?
Correct.
Just a thought. My other thought would be that if there's some way, I think all of our hang tags and all of the transferable and non-transferable residential passes have a number associated with them. Is there not a payment method that we could add to the system that would allow, instead of putting on a credit card information or something, they click a coupon payment option and they input the number associated with their already assigned hang tag? Or I don't know. Those were the two thoughts that just kind of came to mind. I know that doesn't bring this to some conclusion. I would hope that with all this technology, we can accomplish what we want to accomplish, which is, let's make it more efficient, but let's not take something away from the residents.
Thank you, Commissioner. Evan, are there any, is there a person there monitoring the tennis courts at all hours? Where I'm headed with this is maybe there's a benefit to having extra eyes of an attendant there during parking hours, because it's such a remote location.
I would have to check in with Liz Lingo. I know that the tennis courts are often used, and I think there's some training programs and things like that run out of the tennis courts down there. But I would have to check to see if there's an attendant every day or daily.
Thank you. Commissioner Gossett, and then Commissioner Legree, and then Commissioner Sharp.
Yes, thank you. Evan, thanks very much for this. Was there any, when you look back at this, the change in 2019, was there any specific information as to how that decision was arrived at, or what motivated the change to be made?
I think I'm unmuted. No.
You're unmuted.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I'm here. Yes. Well, all I can say is that the motivation at that point was to open it up to the residents, so they wouldn't have an area to, for them. I know former Commissioner Coons was instrumental in, moving that forward, and the commissioners voted in favor of that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And do we know, I think I know the answer to this question, but we don't have any data of actually how many residents use that lot during the season or what have you? We
do not know.
Here's a thought process in my mind. do you happen to know how many spaces are in the lot? I know it's a gravel lot, so.
Yeah, I think based on measurements, I think we assumed roughly 170, but I have not confirmed that number.
So my thought would be that a hybrid, if you will, that could we then reserve a certain portion of that 170 spaces for residents only? And that way the enforcement officer would only have to, if you will, get out of the car to look at that particular section to see if there are hang tags in place. Again, just something to perhaps consider that would work, if you will, both ways in that regards.
Thank you. Commissioner Legree?
I agree that we shouldn't take away privileges. I would actually like to see them expand it a little bit for residents, but I can't believe the technology is not there to either enter in a coupon number or put a red sticker on your license plate or something that would identify a resident. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
One other question, though, I was thinking through that, and Evan, is this the issue of if we were to identify the car some way in that manner, though, that would provide them free parking throughout the city, correct?
Could you say that again? Not sure.
I mean, if again, whether, you know, Commissioner Legree said a red sticker or a list of the, someone else mentioned a list of the license flags, whatever, but that's system wide then. It couldn't be isolated to Douville only, or could it?
Yeah, it could be. So essentially what we would do is just set up Douville Beach as its own zone. So Park Mobile, if anybody's used Park Mobile, you're familiar with the Park Mobile zone number that needs to be entered, which basically designates the area. So Douville Beach could be set up as its own zone, where if you were to purchase a daily permit, for example, at Douville Beach, it wouldn't be accepted in other zones, being non-metered areas of the city.
Okay, thank you.
Or metered areas.
Commissioner Gay?
Yeah, it already is its own zone, right? In the permit that you can buy there, even through the meter, is only a daily permit for that location, right?
No, that was the change that took place back in 2019. So now any permit is accepted at Douville Beach. If you purchase a daily permit at Douville Beach, you can also go park in the non-metered areas of the city as well.
But what about with the new system?
The new system is it would be a specific Douville Beach parking permit.
That's what I'm saying. You're
Yeah.
creating a zone anyway.
Yes.
Through this change. So having a zone with its own rules across the board, you've already created a zone.
In the system, we have not, only because it's a physical permit system. In the virtual permit system, we would create it,
That's what I'm saying.
designated
But
as
you're
its own zone.
already in the virtual system. You're already creating it as a separate zone, is my point.
We would, yes.
Yeah, because I hate to see the enforcement tail wag the dog. You know, I mean, that seems to be the issue here. Is it's how to enforce so that the residents' tags are noted.
Yeah. I would say it's sort of, you know, the issues that we've been trying to address have been the concerns over the traffic backing up from people entering Douville Beach, and just the delays in getting into the lot. We've received a lot of comments about only accepting cash down there and the need to be able to accept credit cards. Certainly not being able to implement Park Mobile down there. So to address some of those concerns, the metered system would be the best way to do that.
Yeah. It has a lot of advantages, but it has some big disadvantages as well.
I guess one of the thoughts I'll throw out there, which was sort of our plan B, was to, because we are looking for, you know, the commissioners to consider authorizing the purchase of the pay stations today, only because we need to get working on installing those before the summer season. One idea that we had was to at least install one meter there. And what we would do is we would accept credit card payments through the machine. It would dispense a receipt, and then the receipt could be brought over to the attendant, and the attendant would issue them a permit.
Well, I don't see any momentum for the first option. So that would temper our decision on when we vote to authorize purchase of meters.
Right.
Is there any interest in option B versus option C, leave it alone?
And I'll just elaborate on option B a little bit. So the operation would remain the same. The only thing that's being added is that we're now implementing a way for people to pay with credit card. So they wouldn't need to, they could still enter a license plate number, but we wouldn't enforce that way. They would just print their receipt after paying and then bring the receipt to the attendant, and the attendant would give them a permit.
Well, let's say next year we have the same conversation and we decide, whoever's here decides to go with your first option. Is that meter, single meter that we might buy adaptable?
Absolutely,
so
Mayor.
Okay. So I think would be, personally, I like it because it's giving a new additional service to visitors and our guests to be able to use a credit card. And I think that's a benefit. Commissioner Sharp?
Mayor, I think you took the words right out of my mouth. It does not feel like we're ready for option A, but option B is a step in the right direction, which does not disadvantage our residents and gives another option to the visitors.
And certainly if just going back, Mayor, to your point, certainly if some of these ideas are brought again next year, coupon system is something that I know is utilized more in the universities. And I could explore that option, see how that might be implemented at Douville Beach. Certainly the idea of maybe having segments of the parking lot dedicated to residents versus visitors. All of those ideas that were thrown out, installing the parking meter under option B as presented, we could certainly make changes to that meter, the configuration, to accommodate some of the ideas that were thrown out, should that be pursued in the next year or so.
So again, I'm not hearing any momentum on option A, the purchase of 3 meters for that area and going to license plate readers. I seem to have minimal momentum on going to option B to give us more time. Are there any objections with going with option B? We can just direct Evan to go that direction. Hearing none, then that would be the path forward for this year for Deauville Beach. Evan.
Sure. And I'll just mention Park Mobile will not be an option, but they will be able to pay via credit card. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. So next, our next item is discussing possible consideration of a amendment of Chapter 92, Automobiles, Vehicles, and Traffic by amending 92-263B8 by exempting business agents whose business license relates to a residential rental property from receiving 1 free parking pass as a business. If you recall, in a previous meeting, we talked about problems with a resident with a residential license interpreting and demanding that he get a free parking permit because he's calling his residential rental property a business. Evan, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mayor. So in the previous version of the draft ordinance that was before you all, we had inserted a section into the sentence that read, each individual business agent licensed to do business in the city, and the insertion starts with the exception of residential rental license holders, and then finished with shall receive at no charge 1 seasonal transferable permit. Permits issued under this subsection shall become invalid if the referenced business agent ceases to hold a city license. There was some discussion at the last meeting about residential rental license and the definition of a residential rental license, if there was the need for that. We had received some comments back from Glenn, so we've made those adjustments. We think they're appropriate. So the revised version is before you today. Again, it now reads, each individual business agent licensed to do business in the city other than a business agent whose business license relates to a residential rental property shall receive at no charge one seasonal transferable permit. That's all I have.
Thank
Mayor.
you, Evan. This is the second meeting where this has come up. That's been clarified for the second meeting here by the language in blue that's on the support document. We have the opportunity today, based on the agenda, to act on this and vote it in as an amendment to our existing code. Is there any discussion? For me, this is a no-brainer. It essentially just clarifies practice that we've been doing for long time. And so if there's no further comment, perhaps somebody will give a motion to amend Chapter 92, Section 263, relating to issuing of parking permits.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Susan Gay and a second by, I think, Commissioner Shanowski to amend Section 92-263 relating to the issuing of parking permits. Is there any further discussion? If not, I would like to go to the public. Carol Everhart.
I think that it's been clear for a long time, so I'm glad to see this clarified.
Thank you very much, Carol. Suzanne Good.
Good afternoon again. I guess in the interest of efficiency, I thought I'd bring up the one issue about modifications to parking that I wanted to discuss today.
We're only addressing 92-263 right now, Suzanne.
Okay, then I'll wait for the appropriate juncture about extending the parking season. Thank you.
Okay, very good. I'll wait for you on that. Walter Bringham, anything on 92-263 relating to?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Walter. Is there no further discussion by the commissioners? I'd like to call a question. I'm just going to do a group vote. All those in favor of amending 92-263 relating to issuing of parking permits dated January 13th, version 2 in front of us, signal by saying aye. Hold your hand up so we can count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have a unanimity in passing this motion. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, Mayor, as long as it's just a comment that I could ask Mr. Miller maybe to investigate for future, since we're kind of correcting practices here. The permit that the hang tag that we're offering at this is either a value of $250 or $225. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Evan?
Yep.
So in other aspects of a license, a business license, or being issued in the city, you can purchase a license in the city for $110, being any type of agent or you're a dog walker or something of that nature. And along with that $95, you get a parking permit for $250 that has a $250 value. So perhaps in the future, I'm investigating parking permits and systems, we could look into that, because I believe that's an inequity in the system also, that we may want to investigate and may not, but I just think that it's something that needs to be investigated. Thank you.
Ed, did you have something? I don't want to start a new chain here of topics.
I'm just going to respond to it very briefly. That Commissioner Gossett, that's part of the mercantile license fee that I discussed earlier that I was looking at. That there's not inequity, that the rates, that the fees are being brought up to what they should based on facts that you just mentioned.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've not seen any information on that, but if it's in the works, that's great, but I think it's something we need to investigate. Thank you.
Thank you both. Next item of parking issues is number 2. Consider authorizing the purchase of a specified number of Luke Cosmo parking pay stations manufactured by T2 Systems. Emma, I want to turn it over to you if you would talk us through this and what the possible number would be and the pricing.
Sure, Mayor, thank you. So with the recent decision on Douville Beach, we're going to reduce the total number of pay stations from 79 down to 77. We had a total of 3 pay stations originally proposed at Douville Beach, but if we do install one just to accept credit cards, that brings the number from 79 to 77. So the vote would be to authorize the purchase of 77 Luke Cosmo parking pay stations manufactured by T2 Systems in the amount of $537,000.
Again, this is in the budget in the capital improvement program, I believe. This is jumping the gun, if you will, as we did last year, so that we could get these ordered and get them in time for installation and to put them to use before the parking season starts. Is there any additional discussion among the commissioners? Carol Everhart, anything?
Nope.
All right, I'm gonna skip Suzanne for her topic. Walter, anything?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you. So we have, so we need a motion and a second authorizing the purchase of 77 Luke Cosmo parking pay stations manufactured by T2 Systems in the amount of $537,000. Can we get an motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Sernowski and a second by Commissioner Gay to authorize the purchase of authorize the purchase of 77 Luke Cosmo parking pay stations manufactured by T2 Systems in the amount of $537,000. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Hold your hand up.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. With that, we're going to go to the 4 items that are for discussion only. They're identified on the agenda for discussion only, again, because I didn't think we could complete these tasks and inform the citizenry and get feedback in time to be able to vote on them. And again, depending on the outcomes, the likely next topic would be February at our February workshop meeting and a potential vote at the February regular meeting. With that, first item is time constraints on unattended vehicles parked in front of private property. And I have to admit, I hope you all can shed light on it because it's still a struggle for me. Evan, do you want to start off?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So before you is an ordinance to amend Chapter 92, 249 related to unattended motor vehicles. Again, the intent of the ordinance is to allow during the summer season in non-metered areas of the city, anyone displaying a valid parking permit to park up to 8 consecutive days. Right now, there's a provision in the code which allows a property owner to call the city on a vehicle that has been parked in front of their property for 24 hours. After they call the city, the police department goes out, puts a notice on the vehicle, and 48 hours from that notice, the vehicle has to be moved. There has been, we've heard some concerns from some of the visitors who purchase weekly parking permits that aren't aware of this provision. They purchase a weekly parking permit, they park on the street, they are at their rental property, they're walking downtown, they're not using their vehicle, and they return to a notice and even a violation. So the intent of the ordinance was, again, to allow, not to prohibit property owners from parking in front of their property, but just to allow visitors, even residents, anyone with a vehicle that has a valid parking permit during the summer to park up to 8 consecutive days without being cited. There is a change in the ordinance from the version that was presented on January 10th. And that change addresses some of the concerns that I heard about how do we certify or verify that the vehicle had in fact been parked there for, in the previous version, 168 hours after the property owner had called. So in the previous version of the ordinance, the property owner could call after 168 hours, which was 7 days, and notify the city that the vehicle had been parked there for 7 days. Subsequently, the police department would go out, put the notice on the vehicle, and it would have to be moved within 48. It's now been changed to allow the property owner to call after the vehicle's been parked there for 24 hours. Police department would go out, put a notice on the vehicle, and as long as they had a valid parking permit, the notice would just advise them that it has to be moved within 8 days. That allows us to certify that the vehicle had in fact been parked there for 8 days rather than relying on the property owner's word. So I am willing to entertain any questions that you might have.
I guess the biggest thing for me is educating the public. How do they know what the rules are?
Sure.
So we can certainly codify this and amend it, but still, how are we going to educate the members of the public that drive in here to have a good time, and they've got a weekly rental and they park something, they bring multiple cars in, they park one across the street in front of your house, and then you call them complaining they get a ticket. I recall Chief at the last meeting indicating he had a similar concern, educating, going out there and giving the notice of violation when likely the person has had no clue they are even violating it. There's restrictions. So I think I mentioned last time my desire perhaps to, if we codified something, to have something on the hanging permit tag that identified what the time restriction is. Is that possible if we go forward?
Thank you, Mayor, for bringing that up. I meant to mention that. So one of the benefits of the change to the ordinance for this meeting was by putting a notice on the vehicle or allowing a notice to be put on the vehicle after 24 hours, that notice would then be on the vehicle for 8 days, which allows the owner of the vehicle to at least see that there's been a notice put on in the event that they come back after 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and know that they have to move it. The previous version of the ordinance didn't really allow for that.
Well, for me, optimally though, they know before they park.
Yes. Yep. And I was getting there, Mayor. So what I will say is right now, the transferable and the non-transferable parking permits have already been ordered. That's because of a lot of the delays we're seeing with the shipping and supply chain issues. We have asked our vendor if we can amend what's being produced right now, but they're in production. So we can't do that for transferable or non-transferables. The weekday, weekend, weekly permits have not yet been produced. We could add additional language onto those permits. There will be a small cost associated with doing that. In addition to adding some language on the permits, we could also advise the public through the city website under the parking tab, under the parking permit tab, and then also just through word of mouth if we have individuals selling the permits out on the street or from the parking department, just advising them of the notice that they may be asked to move the vehicle.
Thank you, Evan. I know, again, I try to put myself in the place of a visitor coming here, say for the first time. I'm probably not going to look at the website and look at the parking and all that. I'm just going to drive into town and do my thing. So, I'm glad that we can perhaps resolve education by putting something on the limited number of parking permits. But maybe there's a little sticker or something that we have to get to put on the other ones that as they're issued, they just put a little 1-inch round circle on it that explains it or something. So anyhow, I think there are solutions. It's just a matter of what the other commissioners want. Commissioner Sharp?
I just wanted to clarify, Evan, in what you just described, could two different people coming from two different areas living in the same house on a given week or a given month, they could potentially have two different kinds of permits. One that says one thing and one that says another?
Trying to
You mean like-
understand. So
You mean like a monthly, one has a monthly permit or seasonal permit and one has a week permit? Is
I
that-
was just trying to figure out if let's just take weekly permits, they would all be the same then, correct?
correct.
But if you have a different kind of permit, I think I'm confusing myself, but it feels like you could have information on one type of permit that's a little different from the other kind of permit.
I'd have to, and unfortunately, June and Frank from the parking department had to step out, but I believe some of the permits that we issue now sort of have a calendar on them, if you will. So if it's a weekend permit, they just mark on it what days the permit's valid for. So it may be the same permit for a daily, and it might be the same for the daily, weekend, weekly. But I would have to look into that and see if we have a specific unique permit just for the week.
I guess where I get very tripped up on this one when I think about it with respect to this is a public street.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it kind of falls apart for me.
Yeah, and I've also been thinking, too, I view it not only as a benefit to the visitors, but also residents, for example, who may park their vehicles in front of their property. They have family that happens to come down for a week and stay with them. They give them one of their permits, but they don't have any room for them to park in front of their house. So they, park it on the first space that's available on their street. Well, it could be in front of their neighbor's house who doesn't want it there, so they call and complain and ask for it to be moved. So, I think there's, certainly a benefit to the residents, but also for the visitors. Again, just some of the concerns we've heard, wanted to address it, but open to any comments, suggestions from the commissioners.
Thank you, Evan. I'd say, Chief Banks, are you on the line?
Yes, Mayor.
Is there anything you want to contribute? What problem are we trying to solve here? And can you help advance this at all?
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I think Evan did sum it up quite well. We do receive complaints after people, they call the police department after they've complained to the parking division that they received some tickets and they didn't understand when they bought the permit that they couldn't park in front of somebody's residence for more than 48 hours. And so it was one of those things where I kind of initiated, well, I'm sure I'm not the only one to initiate it, but I did speak to June with the parking division in the past, as well as Evan. Is there anything we can do to make sure the visitors that purchase a pass understand that they only have 48 hours in these residential areas? So that's how this came about. It's really just trying to make sure it is fair and people do not get a ticket without understanding that they were violating the law, because they get quite irate. That's it, Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to look at who to call on next. Nobody has their hand up. If there's no momentum on this, we may have to let it go another year. But if we do go another year, I'm pretty adamant that we need to educate our people by putting the verbiage on the ticket and then even stickers after the fact. Commissioner Sernowski?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I was shocked that in a resort community where we sell daily, weekly, monthly, seasonal passes, that this is even in ordinance. It seems crazy to me. With that said, but I'm mindful that, just like you don't want someone just parking a car, leaving it for months, in front of someone's house. And I'm also mindful to the fact that a lot of the old cottages in Rehoboth didn't have driveways. And I think maybe this ordinance might have blossomed from the fact that people didn't have driveways, and there's an expectation that you can park in front of your house. So there's a part of me that just wants to strike this whole section of the ordinance, because I just think it's kind of absurd and crazy. However, but like I said, I am mindful you don't want vehicles just sitting around for weeks, months at a time. So I think this is a good compromise. I think it's a good balance. So that I'm happy that we're moving in this direction, and I hope we pass it forward. And what I'm incredibly concerned about is if we've just put a huge spotlight on the fact that this ordinance exists. And if we don't do something, well, I feel bad for the chief and his staff, because lots of people are going to be calling this year when vehicles are in front of their house now that we put a spotlight on it.
Again, this is not something that we'll vote on, and we'll put it on the agenda for the February workshop. And if there's no momentum at that point, then I would say it dies. But hopefully with the extra time to think about it, we'll get some more input from our constituencies also. Commissioner Bennett.
Yes, Evan, just for clarification for me, at section A, is that for metered parking spots, and then section B is the non-metered?
Section A is citywide and regardless of season, so year long.
Oh, so section A is regardless of anything. Then if
Correct.
somebody's in front of my house for 48 hours, I could call and complain?
Yep, in 24 hours, you can call and complain.
Yeah, oof. All right, thanks.
Yep.
But I think I tried to clarify at the last meeting. Section A is applicable to all public parking spaces, whether it's non-metered or whether there's a meter in front. So in other words, you park too long in front of the a metered parking space, first block of Olive, that property owner can call and have you towed. Whereas B is specific during the summer holiday time frame, and also specific to non-metered parking spaces, correct?
Correct, Mayor.
Any further comment?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we still have some streets that have no overnight parking? Do we still have a few blocks in your area, Jay? Yeah. So what do people do there? I mean, there really isn't any overnight. So if you're renting on that street, what do you do and how do you know?
You're muted, Jay.
I'd rather click the mute than you hear my dog bark. Yeah, you're exactly right. The folks on Prospect, East Lake, Queen, first, it's all residents, and they're all of us have at least 2 parking spaces. Many of us have even more. But yes, if it fills up, and I have to take if I can't park inside my driveway, I have to go over and park over on King Charles. And it's a block and a half walk, something like that. But we used to have terrible times down here with people that would leave their cars. There was one kid that left his car for like 2 or 3 months, and he would bathe every day in the hydrant over on the corner of Queen and East Lake, until finally Jay Smith went and bought a lock and locked up the hydrant. But they would come to their cars and get their new change of clothes and shove their blankets back in, and off they go. But yeah, and that was accompanied, Chief Banks will be able to tell you all about it. That was accompanied by a fairly high rate of drug abuse and other abuse. And so the curfew stopped all of that. And at one time it was on St. Lawrence, Queen, Prospect, and East Lake Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And the people on St. Lawrence voted a couple of years ago, or maybe, no, I think Mayor Cooper was still mayor. Our Mayor Mills, you probably voted on that when they decided to go back to parking. And they can park all night now on St. Lawrence, but it gets parked up early on. I mean, that's the beach block. So we get caught maybe once or twice a year, and it's $50 a throw when we forget to bring our car in at night. And but it's worth it because this place just gets packed up if it wasn't for that curfew.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Gay?
No, I mean, I know, I think this is one of the things that the parking committee may have looked at, is expanding the no overnight zones, because we've become known. I mean, I know Commissioner Shinowski expressed concern that now owners will know they can call in and complain, but at the same time, I think it also puts a spotlight on, come to Rehoboth and you can leave your car no matter where you're going to be the next week, you can just park it anywhere. And I don't, I can see why that's a problem for our property owners. I really can. I mean, between the day visitors and the, employees who are parking, it's probably on some streets more than others. That's another thing, is that we may need going forward to look at zones, because I suspect that if it were a few blocks further down, maybe it's not a problem most days, but on the particular blocks where people have told us it is a problem for somebody to be parked there for 3 or 4 days or a week, if they're not staying in the area, it's a problem.
Thank you. If there's no further comment, I'm going to go to the public. Carol Everhart, anything to say on this topic?
Not regarding residential, no.
Thank you. Suzanne Good? No, Suzanne Good, you wanted to wait. Walter Brittingham?
Later topic, thank you.
Yes. Walter?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We'll put this on a future agenda. Obviously, we really still don't have any direction. So we'll have to see what we come up with at our February workshop. With that, we'll go to the second item, which is a discuss only topic, parking season start and stop times. Evan?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So to continue the discussion, I did include a support document of some research I had done. I want to thank Commissioner Gay and Carol Everhart for assisting in that. Basically, what I had done was just perform some research on some of the surrounding coastal towns in the state of Delaware. I also took a look at Ocean City, Maryland, and then a few towns in New Jersey. Some of those towns I was able to get some information from Park Mobile and just had to go to their website and get whatever information I could from what's publicly available on the website. So basically it includes, a column for their start of the season, the end of the season, what their meter rates are. Mayor, I'll note that I think you had mentioned at the last meeting that some of the New Jersey towns may have lower parking fees only because there's a beach tag program in place.
Yes, Evan, in the 3 towns that you have, Asbury Park, Cape May, and Sea Isle City, all have beach tags, by the way. So we need to temper looking at their parking fees because they have the beach tags.
Yep. So I just did notice that when doing the research. I also include enforcement times, enforcement days. Some communities, charge different rates or enforce differently based on the day. If there's any restrictions as to time limitations, they're noted there. I also included just some notes, again, on why the rates may vary, whether maybe it's just a permit system only. And then I did include some brief information on permit prices as well. I wanted to get everything together for you, just for you all to, have the information. Again, I didn't really intend on talking to this document, just more as an informational support document for the commissioners to consider. It does look like a majority of the towns within the city or within the state of Delaware are May 15 to September 15. It's just one observation.
Thank you, Evan. I just want to review real quick. Your chart's very helpful. It doesn't have Rehoboth Beach on it, though. So I'd just like to go through, I don't know if anybody of you, you can write up in the above margin if you choose. Municipality, of course, Rehoboth Beach. Season start Friday before Memorial Day, which this coming year would be May 27th, I believe.
Correct.
The season ends second Sunday after Labor Day, I believe, is September 18.
Correct.
Meter rates, $3 in certain prime commercial areas and $2 other areas. Meter rates, meter enforcement times, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Enforcement days are daily. Restrictions, we've got, I guess, a maximum parking of 12 hours, except in the 30-minute zones. And then your chart on permits is very helpful. I just added over there, Rehoboth Beach is enforced 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. in terms of the permits. Just to help you do some comparisons there.
Thank you, Mayor. And I will just mention too, to the commissioners and the public, there are also some additional comments, additional documents, support documents in the agenda, starting after the parking comparison support document. They include just a screenshot of several months of the 2022 calendar, and they highlight the existing parking season. It also includes a map actually taken from our parking walking guide, with some additional orange highlights in the $3 per hour zone, and then just the existing tan highlighted areas for the $2 per hour zones. And then the final support document is just a chart showing our parking permit rates. I did insert in there our scooter parking permit fee, which is $40.
Very good. So we'll open that to discussion. Again, the discussion is on the parking season. Do we want to amend the start and stop sign, times? And one of the reasons I recall Evan brought this up is to try to affix a definitive date for start and stop versus the elusive Friday before Memorial Day and the second Sunday after Labor Day. Some of the commissioners gave their opinions last week that varied anywhere from extend it earlier to May 1st, and some said April 1st, and then some indicated extending it to September 15th or 30th, end of October, or to November 1st. Open it up the floor.
Mayor, if I could just add one thing. So I think one of the requests too from the previous meeting was for the parking department to come up with their recommendation. We didn't really put together a formal recommendation. I would say though that an April 1st start of the season would be extremely difficult for us, and we advise against an April 1st start date only because that's the start of our fiscal year. So we'd have to go back and readjust budget numbers and really start to do a lot of things today. We'd actually be behind at that point if we were to do a May 1st start. We don't really have.
Evan, clarify for me. Does that mean this year?
If
we put it into effective next year, there's time, or it just doesn't work?
So if we were to do that next year, it would still be a challenge with budget because we would have to look at what we had our budget meeting earlier today. We'd have to go back and readjust all those figures to account for expenses that we'd incur prior to next fiscal year. So we would have to relook at some of those numbers and maybe even double some of those numbers, because in the budget we have right now, we've accounted for this fiscal year and a start of, the Friday before Memorial Day. If we needed to prepare for the season prior to the adoption of next fiscal year or 2 fiscal year from now, that budget, we'd have to reappropriate funds or adjust the budget for the upcoming fiscal year. I know that's a little bit confusing, so I apologize, Mayor, but just certainly the challenge with having an April 1st start of our fiscal year and the April 1st start of the parking season would be challenging.
How about if we extend the season, when might that be? And we do that by the February regular meeting. When would you be able to have what effective date would you have on that? Would you be able to implement this year, or do you need the rest of this year to prepare to be able to implement it for the summer of 2023?
We'd be able to prepare for any change to the season this year. If there's any potential change that would be proposed that would be before May 1st, we may just ask the commissioners to consider maybe, allow us some time to make sure parking meters are installed, configured properly, tested properly. So if it's voted to start sooner than May 1st, we may just ask that it be delayed in order to get everything installed and working properly.
And Evan, just a curiosity, that includes all signage?
Yes.
Yes, yep. So signage is certainly another challenge too. So, right now we have, over probably 500 signs around town, maybe even more, for all just noticing of permits required, but also above all of our parking meters. So we would need to, order stickers to cover up the existing season that's referenced on that signage, install all of those, and then make all of the configuration adjustments to the meters, et cetera. Just a lot of the stuff behind the scenes that I won't get into.
I guess what I'm trying to get a handle on is, in order to do this right and to do it in a well thought out way and to do it properly with giving everyone who's involved here with signs and education, all of it, the right amount of lead time, how could we possibly be talking about 2022? I need to be educated on how 2022 works.
So 22 is doable. I'm pretty confident in saying that. I've reached out to the contractor that we're proposing to use for doing concrete foundations for the pay stations, manufacturer of the pay stations, and some of our other providers, and just asked that, if the commissioners considered changing the start of the season to as early as May 1st, is that something that we can accommodate? Every answer I've gotten back so far shows yes, that we'd be able to do it. Certainly there's some things like signage, the change on Rehoboth Avenue with space numbers, things like that will have to get worked out. It may just be a matter of bringing in some of our seasonal staff a little bit early to assist with that.
But essentially, Commissioner Sharp, it sounds like time is of the essence. We can't wait another 2 months to vote on this and hope for that to be effective.
And I guess, Mayor, I'm also trying to figure out, and I'm sure someone can enlighten me, if we were really serious about this for 2022, what is the cost of all this? What's the cost benefit analysis of how much is this going to cost us from every facet that we have to not only do, but we might have to hurry up and do? That's what I'm trying to grapple with.
Thank you. We've got Commissioner Gay, Commissioner Legree, Commissioner Sharnowski. Commissioner Gay, go ahead.
I think Commissioner Sharp raises some great questions about the cost, because we want to know what the revenue expectation would be too. It might not be the same as during the middle of the summer. So, we think we need to look at all of that. And I don't know whether it's possible, this year or not. But the other reason the time is of the essence, and the other reason the clock is ticking, is the visitor's guide. Don't forget that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Carol said she could wait till, mid-February, but beyond that, I know there's no leeway. But speaking from a more general perspective, whether it's this year or next year, I think perhaps we ought to do something and put it in place for next year. I had been looking for weeks, in fact, to find the recommendations from the Parking Advisory Committee, and I finally found the presentation last night that was made in August of 18. And May 1st to September 30th was their recommended season. And at the time, I remember there was fairly broad support. Those are the dates that have been talked about, I guess, most frequently.
What were the dates again?
May 1 to September 30.
Thank you.
It's been out there before. It's been discussed for several years. So, I don't know that people would be shocked by that, is because it has been
right.
discussed and specifically recommended by this group that, studied it for some months.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you, Susan. Commissioner Sharnowski?
Yeah, thank you. I too, you know, and would like to know what the costs are. I mean, reprinting guides, changing signage, there's got to be some costs associated with that. And I do worry about getting it implemented in time for this season. I personally am in favor of doing May 1 to September 30th. You know, I say that, you know, those are my personal opinions. As the liaison for Main Street, I'm sure that the businesses and the downtown community would want some input on that. But I generally am in favor of changing it to those dates.
Thank you. Commissioner Gossett?
Yes, thank you. Trying to kind of overlay this with this discussion we had this morning with our budget. As presented, we have a balanced budget. So I would think that looking at these changes into the season, perhaps in the amount, hourly parking meter amounts and locations of those and what have you, it'd be a much better discussion to have now to implement in 2023, especially based on the fact that we have brought forward a balanced budget. And we still have a couple more meetings to go and things may change with the budget, but I don't think they would change that dramatically. And, you know, to have a very specific cost benefit analysis for this, profit and loss, costs, et cetera, I think would be more beneficial to be activated upon on the 23 season for parking. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sranaski, is your hand still up? Oh, you keep forgetting. Commissioner Bennett.
Yes, but I guess the counterpoint to some of the discussion about starting in 2023, don't we have a $500,000 charge against new parking equipment meters?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so I would be in favor of implementing it this year if we could. That stuff needs to be paid for, in my opinion.
Well, we've got Carol here. Carol, at the last meeting, a couple commissioners mentioned the potential to move the end of the season to November 1st. Of course, November 1st would come after Sea Witch. And so I would say that I just want to clarify, what is the latest date in October that Sea Witch occurs, so that if we went that direction, we could avoid Sea Witch, like October 20th, October 15th, October 28th?
Sea Witch is always the last full weekend in October. That means it has to have a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's very consistent. It has to have a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Sometimes that falls on Halloween. Next year, it's a day ahead, it's 28, 29, 30. So 31st is not on the record for next year. It'll change every year, but it's always the last full weekend. Do you want another comment on this from me, or you want me to?
Sure.
Okay. So Commissioner Gay is correct. There was a parking committee that recommended a May 1st to September 30th. It was not met with open arms, let's say, by the business community at all. There was quite an uprising about it. That's why it didn't change. So keep that in mind. I imagine the same thing would happen. However, that date does match the Lewis beach parking only. They are May 1 to September 30th in the beach area. That's the only thing it matches. The May 15th to September 15th is closer to what you have now, and it matches Bethany and it matches Dewey. So you'd have Bethany, Dewey, and Rehoboth all at May 15 to September 15th, and it does give you a few extra days.
But you do have the downtown parking in Lewis, May 1 to middle of October.
Correct. So I can't imagine we wouldn't have the same response. So I just want you to, that is why that didn't go forward. It was an effort, but it did not move forward.
Thank you, Carol. Since we're with the public, if the commissioners don't mind, let me go to other members of the public. Suzanne Good?
Yeah, actually, this is good timing. I'm glad that Commissioner Bennett feels there's no point in delaying this. My main concern has been for many years, ever since we moved, my husband and I and our teenager moved here full time, is that in the months of April, May, September, and October, in particular Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and any holidays, there's a tremendous amount of, there are tremendous numbers of visitors. We're so, as all of you know, we're so close to major, multiple day trip feasible urban centers. And what's happening, if the weather is favorable, as happened on several Saturdays and Sundays in April, we're having backups beginning at 3 or 3:30 p.m. westbound that are like an environmental nightmare, among other things. My idea has been for some years to start meter enforcement weekends, April and May, as well as September and October. And I'm not convinced a lot of enforcement personnel are even necessary, especially if you were to raise the amount of the citation. People don't want to risk getting a ticket. They'd rather just pay for a few hours of parking. They'll do the right thing. I've been walking back from the boardwalk in September and October and have had people arriving for the day at 9:30 or 10, and they'll ask me, oh, do we have to pay for parking? And I immediately tell them, oh, no, you're actually good till the Friday before Memorial Day. Enjoy. But the thing is that we have people who come in for the entire day in April, for instance, on a Saturday, a fair weather Saturday in April. They're using our trash services. They're using all sorts of other municipal services. And the magnitude of these people just keeps increasing. It's an attractive place to come for the day. So I think that the investment's worth making in changing the signage, and time is of the essence, as Mayor Mills just pointed out, because we have this this massive wave of visitors in decent weather. I'm not talking about rainy days, and I'm not sure the extra cost to enforcement is that great, given this ability just to depend on people not wanting to sit on the beach for 4 hours and be worried about getting a ticket. So because a lot of the brochures and things need to be changed quickly, obviously you can't delay on this. And with the permits, we have an additional problem. And we have had this for many years. And I know that the restaurant owners and the business owners very badly want the permits to come off at 5 p.m. But a lot of those restaurant owners should purchase permits for their employees, in my view. I have friends who are property owners both in Bethany and Fenwick. These are fairly affluent people for the most part, who since the 1990s have chosen to come into Rehoboth, sometimes several nights a week in July. They deliberately leave Fenwick at 4:30 p.m. or Bethany at 4:45 p.m. because they know that starting at 5 p.m. they can drive around and find free parking. These people don't need free parking. They could contribute to our budget. Anyway, so my thoughts on that is the sooner the better. And not to worry too much about hiring a lot more seasonal parking enforcement until the normal Friday before Memorial Day. Now it's, I guess, a third Sunday in September. So I hope you'll, work out something sooner rather than later, in this case, for the upcoming 2022 season. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne. Tim, Commissioner Bennett, your hand's still up. Did you have something else to say? You're good. All right. Thank you very much. Any other commissioners? Do you want to put something on the table for additional analysis and discussion at the February workshop meeting, or how do you want to proceed? Maybe we throw out there May 1 to September 30th, just as a feeler, and see what feedback we get. If you want to do that, I need some nods of heads. Commissioner Legree, and then Commissioner Sharp. Commissioner Legree, you're muted.
I want to do that. We need to, I would love to see us standardize one way or another, and I agree with Tim, but let's get these cotton picking things paid for, and so I'm there. I'm ready to talk that way.
Commissioner
Mayor,
Sharp?
I don't disagree with anything that's been said, other than I don't think I can articulate what is it going to cost us to do this.
Well, eventually, cost benefits analysis, I think, can be done and should be done, but I think we can also recognize that as far as signage, that's a one-time cost, and then in future years, we would be making an excess. But cost benefit analysis would probably be good, because there is a cost in labor for enforcement for later in the year or earlier in the year. So,
well, and I get a little concerned about hearing about, and we're not alone in this, you know, having to be concerned about staffing shortages. And I would imagine the same people who are going to have to take down signs and put up new signs have other responsibilities as well, getting ready for the season. So that's what makes me just a little uneasy. Can we actually implement and execute this properly?
I think we would direct that to Evan to research that for us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Is everybody comfortable with putting this again on the February workshop meeting? If so, we need to bring some ideas to the table, or else it needs to die. Commissioner Stranowski?
Sure. I am in favor of extending and making a consistent date, October 1 through September 30th. But I'm not sure that in the beginning of May and the end of September, it should be the entire week. I'm not, or at least not at nights on the entire week. So I'd like to get some feedback from other commissioners on that. Because I think on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, that may really hurt some of our downtown businesses, and they'll go out on the highway to shop and eat and drink in the middle of the week. So at some point some have mentioned just weekends in the earlier and later aspects of the extended season. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I'd love to get more feedback from the commissioners on going from May 1st to September 30th, extending the season, and even a comment on whether the extension forward and backward should be 7 days a week or just weekends. Anybody? I guess that's for a future discussion. Thank you very much.
Mayor, this is Evan. If I could just say something. So again, I just want to go back that, I have talked with the parking department and the staff in the parking department. I've talked with our vendors and our contractors. We're confident with a May 1st start date for this upcoming fiscal year, this upcoming summer. September 30th is only, a week or two beyond what the seasonal staff typically works. So we're pretty confident. I mean, you heard earlier that out of the 36 employees we typically tend to recruit, we have, 25 or so that have said that they're interested in coming back this year. So, we're already doing really well with, bringing on the seasonal help. If anything, really the costs associated with this, we have a line in the parking department budget of minor equipment and supplies. And that line is sort of our catch-all for a lot of these things, such as signs and stickers. And so, any costs associated with updating the signs, again, the stickers is likely the route that we would go because we can just identify the area that needs to be replaced, put a sticker over it, and just reference the new season. So the signs are really, just a matter of ordering stickers and having staff go out there and replace them. Again, we've talked internally and we're pretty confident with a May 1st start date, and certainly a September 30th end date would be no issue in that regard.
Well, I
Evan,
have
thank
no
you.
fixed opinion yet, but I would throw this out there that if we're going to start May 1st, that's 4 weeks early, and go from September 18th to September 30th, that's an extra 2 weeks, that the easiest thing to do would be to say 7 days a week enforcement. Or I could see that if you go look at Asbury Park, they've got year-round parking. And you've got some others that towns in New Jersey that extend to the end of the year. I could see maybe utilizing weekend-only parking way into the shoulder seasons, but perhaps not if it's such a small extension before early and later. Anybody else?
Mayor, may I comment, please?
Man.
Sorry. Hold on. Mayor, may I comment?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad Evan made that point. Short of doing a cost-benefit analysis, of course, the first thing that we did was ask staff who actually have to work here and, work with their other individuals, seasonal employees. And the reaction was a resounding, yes, we can get this done. Of course, the concern is always getting the people back in here sooner. There's a couple of different variables, including, when people are used to working and when they take their own vacations. But June Ember did reach out. I spoke to her this week. She did reach out to everyone, asking them that question who worked last year. They do want to return. They didn't think the time difference, if the season was extended, June did not think that, would be an issue necessarily, but we need to go back to them and ask them that. But I think just the point I wanted to make is that, no one said, no, absolutely not, we can't get this done. And most of them actually said, it's past due. Not that, you might necessarily want to hear their comments, but that's what they think. Thank you.
And Mayor, I just want to.
Sharon and Evan, help me clarify here. I've heard you say, yes, it's doable for this year, provided we vote on this by the February regular meeting, question mark?
Mayor, I'd almost ask you to do it as soon as possible.
It needs to be before that, Mayor. Definitely needs to be before that. Now would be ideal. The February workshop, if you would have a special meeting. So if you did want to proceed, that we could go there, but the sooner the better.
Well, I would have a hard time doing it prior to the regular meeting in February because we don't have any proposal on the table. And we need to be able to provide a proposal on the table for feedback from our constituents before we go to a vote. And since there's no proposal on the table today, I would be very uncomfortable putting it on for a vote at the at a special meeting after the February workshop. Anybody else? I'm not hearing emphatic enough the desire to change. I need to hear something more emphatic. Commissioner Legree, please. You're muted. Muted.
I'm going to take the crown away from Chernowski. I'm ready to say 1 May to 30 September now. But if we can't go much past 30 September because we certainly can't get past 15 October. So we're pretty much tied in on the back end. So that only leaves the front end, and I would be ready to say 1 May.
To September 30th?
Yeah. Because we can't go much past September 30th.
Tim, you were ready to move forward this year. I don't remember. Did you give the dates of the season that you proposed?
Are you asking me?
Tim Bennett, Commissioner Bennett. Commissioner Bennett, yeah, you indicated you'd like to move forward this year. You're ready to do it, but I don't remember. Did you articulate a new season?
I did. It would not be popular. It was April 1st through November 1st.
So short of that, you might be amenable to.
But I'd be
May 1 to September 30th.
Certainly happy with May 1 through September 30th as well. I could support that as well.
Any other commissioners?
Are
Commissioner Gay?
we saying we would put those dates out there now for public feedback so that we could move ahead in February? Is that what you're trying to get?
Well, what I'm looking forward is enough consensus that, yes, we put that word out and conduct a special meeting at after our February workshop so that we could vote on it.
I mean, I think it's a good trial balloon. I think it's good dates. It's, as I said, it's been talked about before. We ought to go out there with it.
I'm fine with it.
All right, well, we've got a consensus then. Let's let the media advertise that, if you will. Let's garner some feedback and we'll follow the path that we just articulated. Much. We've got public feedback, so we've got 2 more items on parking, and they can merge together if they need to be, but I separated them into parking fee amount for meters. Remember, right now we are either $3 or $2, depending on your area, and then the parking fee amount for permits. And you'll recall in the support document Evan provided is the permit pricing. So we could start perhaps with meters. Is anybody comfortable with the system we have now versus making any changes? Remember, you've got a support document here.
So basically, the division in cost of $3 to $2 is $3 is commercial space and on Baltimore and Wilmington and all the way up Rehoboth until 4th Street. Everything else is $2. The aspect of, beachfront people going to the beach on Baltimore and Wilmington is the same to me as that is on Olive, Virginia, Maryland, Brooklyn, what have you. So if the ocean blocks of that, if that's the attraction is the ocean, why don't we look at $3 per hour on those blocks? Is there a reasoning behind that, Evan, of why this was initially broken up, this matter?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. I believe the $3 versus the $2 was created when the Parking Advisory Committee had also recommended implementing the time limits. So in these areas, the time limit was 3 hours maximum. The 3-hour maximum was done away with after significant pushback from the business community. And so the $3 per hour in the commercial area remained. The $2 per hour zone elsewhere, just stayed the same. So certainly, our thought, the parking department's thought is just make the rates consistent. Again, simplicity, consistency, but again, open to any ideas from the commissioners.
So, Evan.
Commissioner Chernowski, please.
Evan, the city staff's recommendation is to make it $3 throughout, correct?
Correct.
I'm in favor of that, Mayor.
What let's just understand what you're just saying, different than Commissioner Gossett. All on the map that's provided, all the orange area is existing $3 an hour zone. So what you're talking about is for all the tan area, changing that to $3 zone. So let's look at that area. That's Rehoboth Avenue from 4th to the Canal, Lake Avenue between Culture Pearl and Bad Hair Day, sections of Maryland and Olive there. What is the parking lot fee for City Hall right now?
$2, Mayor.
So that's $2 an hour. So would that be incorporated? Then you've got Christian Street. It shows Martin's Lawn Alley. I don't think there's any parking in the alley, is there?
No, Mayor, that's correct.
Okay, but we've got 2nd Street, Delaware, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, first blocks of Laurel and Hickman. And then on the north side of Rehoboth Avenue, North 1st Street, South 1st Street, first block of Maryland Avenue, first block of Olive, first block of Virginia. I think we would include Lakeview and Grenoble, and then Lake Avenue between North 1st Street, Surf Avenue. So there's an extensive area there. I want to make sure we're talking about the same area there.
Yep. Throughout the entire city, $3 an hour.
For all metered parking. Now, some would argue that there's no incentive there for keeping, getting vehicles to transition or getting beach people to not park in one area versus the other. If $3 an hour at the bandstand area, and it's $3 an hour in the first block of Virginia, you're not getting beachgoers to stay away from the commercial area. So that's why I think in the past, there was always this tier system. There were certain areas were more expensive than the others. Commissioner Bennett, please.
I agree with Commissioner Shanowski about the $3. The one change I would make is I would change all beach block to $5 an hour. We have a lot of improvements and a lot of things we're doing for the visitors and the residents. And I think $5 an hour, if you can park at premium spots and beach block, is still a good deal. We're a free beach.
Anybody? Commissioner, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner LeGree? You're muted.
I didn't want to lose my crown. I agree with Commissioner Bennett. If we're not going to talk about beach tags, and I don't think that's right now the thing to do, then let's do that. Let's make the beach block be $5 an hour, so we can people will hunt for cheaper parking spaces. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. So we've got 2 for $5 an hour in the first block, beach blocks. I assume you both support $3 an hour everywhere else, right? I got 1 thumb up from Tim. Thank you, Tim. I got 2 thumbs up. Commissioner Shanowski, you indicated $3 an hour everywhere. I don't know if you want to respond to these guys, but Commissioner Gay, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I have a question. Are you saying, when you say the beach block, Commissioner Bennett, and I think it's a good idea, especially for those who come just for the beach. Are you saying all of the first blocks? So even in the central business district, so even the beach block of Wilmington, Baltimore, and Rehoboth Avenue, or are you saying the other beach blocks that are all?
No, for simplicity on the map that I'm looking at, where all the beiges, which I think is which is metered,
Yeah.
Is that correct, Kevin? Right, so the metered areas.
Right, but I mean, I guess where I'm going with it is, I like that idea as for people that are going to the beach and not going to the businesses, but I don't know if we should make it $5 in the first block of Rehoboth Avenue, Billington or Baltimore, if people are coming there to go to those businesses in that central business district. I don't know, what do you think about that, Ed?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to the higher rate on beach blocks. I don't know that I would make that significant jump this year in a short amount of time without public comment. My one concern with I understand, Commissioner Gay, what you're saying on the commercial district, but then if you can park on Brooklyn for $5 an hour, but it's only $3 on Rehoboth, but there's still a 12-hour parking limit on Rehoboth, then I'm going to park on Rehoboth Avenue and go to the beach.
Right.
That is the one thing that wouldn't work, in my opinion. But the whole 12-hour parking, I was surprised that businesses were in favor of that overwhelmingly, because that makes no sense to me inherently.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
I will just add, if I could, this is Evan. That was one of the reasons behind the recommendation to make citywide meter spaces consistent, because we have people who will park on Maryland or park on Delaware, will park on Baltimore, park on Wilmington, but then go pay a meter on Maryland or Delaware because it's less expensive. But the zones are configured in a way that if we were to enforce their vehicle, it's going to show up as a violation because they haven't paid in the zone in which they're parked. So that is sort of a logistical, some logistical information I just want to make you aware of, that if we were to do an increased rate on just the beachfront, first block of the beach, there's going to be some changes in the back end in terms of park mobile zone numbers, signage, things like that, in order to accommodate that.
I'm in favor of exploring that for next year, but I think this year, let's just go with what the staff's recommending. Let's make it consistent throughout the city. It's going to increase revenue for us so we can, do more of our capital projects that are necessary.
Ed, I think your dog disagrees with you.
My apologies. I'm going to mute now.
Well, again, we are unable to vote on this today. That was intentional, so we can get feedback and put the word out there. I think I assume the media will be reporting this, and we'll get some feedback from the business community and our constituency. We've got at least three commissioners interested in going the full route, $3 an hour citywide at all meters. And so we can again put that on our February special meeting that follows the February workshop. Is there any additional discussion?
Can we just get a public comment on that as well?
Yeah. Well, Commissioner Gossett's first, and then we'll go.
I would support the $3 citywide. And also, would we maintain the 10 to 10 hours on the meters, or would we look at any changes in that for this season or next?
Well, what would you say in terms of change? Because some people might hear, do you want it less, or do you want to revert back to midnight? I'd look at this comparison chart in a lot of these towns where, or some of these towns go till 11 p.m. and Dewey's 2 a.m. I can remember when we changed that in the past, we got a lot of flack from people saying, why aren't we making the people that come in late to only patronize our bars get free parking?
That's what I would question, and maybe this could go back with Evan in the parking department. If their recommendation was $3 an hour citywide, also just inquire of the aspect of changing it to midnight, from 10 a.m. to midnight.
Yeah, I can certainly check with the parking department. I know, actually, I was looking at the code because I was curious actually when the existing season was established by the city. And I noticed that in 2019, I guess we had changed it from enforcement till midnight to enforcement till 10. Reason behind that, I'm not exactly sure, but I could check, and maybe Sharon has some insight she could share with me too, so.
I do remember it's been till midnight for many, many years, and it was the 2019 when the Douville change was made and other changes made. So just be curious as to, I know June has been in the parking department, probably founded the place, but she might have an opinion as to the changes in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Well, if the intent is to possibly vote on changing the time of enforcement for the meters at the special meeting in February after the workshop, then we ought to put the word out now also that that's a possibility, so that it's not a surprise. Is that all right with everybody?
It's not a strong option for me to change. I just want to bring that forward if we're looking at this holistically, possibly for next season. But the $3 an hour and the extended season, I think, are the two main things that we should focus on right now.
All right, thank you very much. Anybody else? We will go ahead, Ed, and then we'll go to the public.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of making that change this year. I'm not opposed to reviewing it again, looking at the next season, but that was one of the changes of the very comprehensive parking recommendations that came out of that committee in 2019, and there was rationale behind it and there was support at that time. So I wouldn't jump to make that change now, but I'm not opposed to looking at it for the next season.
Is there any flavor to look into that and do it? Because again, if we're going to accelerate this and have a voting meeting, we need to be able to say, yes, it will be part of the vote, and then you can choose to vote it down if you don't want.
I would support just extending the season and changing the cost of the meter to $3, leaving the hours as is for now.
All righty, thank you very much. With that, let's go to the members of the public. Remember, our topic is parking fee amount for the meters. The permits will be next. Carol Everhart, any comments on the meters?
Well, of course, I like the consistency part of it. $3 an hour, that's simple. If it's a meter, it's $3 an hour. And I also, I like the May 15 to September 15th better, but I think the next option is what you're suggesting.
Thank you, Carol. Suzanne Good, anything on parking meter fees?
I hope I'm talking at the right time. I support Commissioner Bennett in raising the parking spaces that are in such close proximity to the ocean. And then the remainder would be $3 an hour, which in some cases is a 50% rise from the $2 an hour. Just to clarify something I said earlier, I'm very much in favor, instead of this daily enforcement beginning May 1st, of doing weekends, maybe Friday Friday 10 a.m., Saturday, Sunday, April, May, September, and October, because something like 80% of the traffic occurs between Friday afternoon and Sunday at 3 p.m. or something. So I think you're not going to capture a lot of the revenue if you instead go with this weekdays, 7 days a week in May through September 30th. So I'm a little concerned about that. I do know for the city, as has been mentioned by Evan and others, it would be difficult to implement beginning as soon as April 1st, 2022. But enough people would end up paying on either an honor system or just enough would have heard about it that I don't think we should get all worked up that maybe we can't get the enforcement going until, say, May 1st, or all of the signs installed until closer to May 1st. So thanks for evaluating this. It's definitely important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. So again, I want to reiterate that the outcome of this discussion that I heard today that will be brought forward for consideration at a special meeting after the February workshop would be the season extension to May 1st to September 30th. And as far as the fees go, that all parking meters would be $3 an hour. Is that correct? All right, so I'm getting a couple nods. Thank you. So we'll go to our last parking issue that again is identified for discussion only. Parking fee amounts for permits. Evan, you've got that nice support document there that shows different things I superimposed on there, some fees that seasonal transferable. We are to.
Mayor, your audio is out again.
It's covering your microphone again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. Somebody needs to train me better. The seasonal permits, seasonable transferable, $250 in Rehoboth and in Dewey Beach. Weekly, 8 consecutive days is $90 in Rehoboth. Dewey Beach is 75, but it doesn't say whether it's 7 or 8 days. And then Bethany Beach is 175 for 7 days. So 175 and we're 90. The weekly daily, $20 Rehoboth, 45 Dewey. Weekday daily, $15 Rehoboth, Dewey Beach 20, Bethany Beach 25. So I found those kind of an interesting comparison there. Anybody?
I wish we had a side-by-side comparison.
Mayor, the only thing that I wanted to mention is, we just wanted to bring this in front of the commissioners again, just during talks. Obviously we're hoping to get some ideas from the commissioners and decisions made early so we can plan accordingly. One thought on the seasonal transferable and non-transferable, or for seasonal permits, whether or not those fees were going to increase if the season itself was going to increase in length from the start. And so just wanted to put that out there. Again, trying to get all this information together, hopefully some votes made in February so that we can finalize parking walking guides, et cetera.
Well, do you all have any recommendation on that if we extend the season from May 1 to September 30th, what percentage of the parking season is extended, and come up with some formula for increasing the parking permits? I find it interesting that our seasonal transferable is 250. Bethany Beach 8-day week permit is 175. Goodness gracious, why wouldn't you just buy a whole seasonal pass that way? And of course, unless you're a seasonal or a weekly rental, then you might do it. But there's certainly economy in buying the seasonal pass. So maybe our seasonals need to go up commensurately, especially if the permit and the meter seasons are consistent, May 1 to September 30th. Anybody?
Can I just ask, Evan, the last worksheet that you have, which is the permit type and the cost, these are your recommendations for this season, correct?
No, this is actually existing.
This is existing.
Yes.
So you're not specifically recommending any changes.
No, the only thing that we just wanted, the reason we wanted to put it before the commissioners in the event that the season was changed, if there was going to be any change to the seasonal permit fee, we just wanted to, identify what any change would be if that would be the case. I don't know if there was any interest amongst the commissioners to look at all permit fees, so that's why I just put them all in front of you.
Yeah, I think it's good to look at. I would, for the next meeting or preferably before that, if we could get this spreadsheet with the comparisons of the other municipalities, that would be helpful.
But I think, again, if we're going to vote on something, we need to put something out today. I hate rushing it. I don't want to come to the voting meeting the first time seeing proposed increases in these. I think it's wrong to be that quick on it. So are you dead set on how far can parking fee decision be pushed back? Does that have to happen concurrently with the February special meeting versus voting at the February regular meeting on parking permit increases?
Well,
It's tough to say, Mayor. I mean, I would just say as soon as possible because, for some things, some publications, we're already too late. So just as soon as possible would be ideal. We've made great steps towards approving the pay stations. So, now once we get them, I need to start, or now that we're going to order them, I need to start thinking internally and doing some of the configuration on the back end so that I can prepare for that. So that would be season, rates, all of that, times of enforcement, days, things like that. So I don't have a better answer aside from as soon as possible.
well, that's the answer. As soon as possible is best. And there are publications already and ads out there that we can't take back, but we can always try to get an addendum in there or a correction or update.
I'm willing to take a 15-minute recess if you could come up with some prices or something so that we can put them out there. Again, I'm just very hesitant to come to the next meeting and for the first time seeing what proposed changes to permits are and voting on them at the same meeting. I'm struggling with that a little bit. Commissioner Legree, please.
I wish we could have some comparisons. I have no comparisons and I have no idea whether I would be saying something that made sense or not if I recommended comparisons or recommended changes. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Maybe we have trying to figure a way to do this. Talking about it again at the workshop meeting and then having a special meeting afterwards to vote on it. I hate that. I think it's cheating, but that's certainly a possibility. Commissioner Bennett?
Yeah, I would recommend we keep the permit prices the same this year if we're going to raise the meter prices and then have a more thorough discussion about it. Because when I look at all these other competitive or comparative towns, there's all kinds of different levels and different names for permits. And I just think for us rushing it right now is probably not the smart thing to do. And if we're going to be extending the season and raising meter rates, I think that might be enough for everyone to digest this season. And we start discussions about permitting a little earlier for 2023.
Sure makes my job easier to postpone it a little bit. Anybody else? Feedback? Commissioner Sharp.
I can support exactly what Tim just said because I think we have yet to hear from the public regarding the other two items we just talked about, meaning the meter rates and the extension of the season. So I think Carol Everhart reminded us quite well that the last time we tried some of these things, we were not met with resounding support.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and go to the members of the public. Carol, we're talking about the parking fee amounts for permits. Would you like to comment, please?
Well, I agree with Commissioner Bennett and Commissioner Sharp that going forward with the two recommendations is probably enough for them to swallow. I'll put it that way at this point.
Very good. Thank you. Suzanne, good? Parking meter, parking
Yes.
permit fees.
I concur with Commissioner Bennett because there's a lot to get through in terms of the meters and the meter season, that you should defer the permits until, I guess, around November 2022 to make sure, though, that changes go into effect for the 2023 season. And I'm hopeful, even though I feel as though there's this consensus already to go with the May 1st to September 30th, I'm not sure a cost-benefit analysis needs to be done. I mean, I've lived here now year-round for over 4 years. I'm just doing a quick back-of-the-envelope calculation that there's very little traffic on a Wednesday in early May into this town. But as long as the weather is clement, there's a huge amount of traffic beginning Friday afternoon until Sunday. So I hope maybe there'd be some consideration to a suggestion Commissioner Gossett, I believe, did make a few weeks ago, that it be weekends, April, May, September, and October, and just overlook the Monday through Thursday when the potential revenue is probably fairly insignificant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suzanne. Walter, are you still on board? Anything about parking permit fees?
Who are you addressing?
Parking permit fees.
Who are you addressing?
You, Walter.
Okay, thank you. I think you can get away with starting the season a little earlier and let it go later. I think anything above $3 is going to really poison the people. And I think to look at parking permit and other things, because none of this, we've been through this before, that should have been done back in October, and it should all come back in October again for reexamination. The $5 is too much, and I see a certain advantage to the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because just like supermarkets keep people down to 32 hours so they don't become full-time, you're going to have more help available for lesser amounts of time. You guys are grabbing a lot. I think you can do it, but I think it's grabbing is a terminology, but $5 is too much, and it's going to force people out of town terribly. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Any further comments on permit, Commissioner Srnowski?
Yeah, a question. Evan, the seasonal non-transferable tags, who buys those, and why would someone buy it?
The seasonal non-transferable are among, I guess, the two permits that get issued to residents free of charge. So residents now can receive, or per the code, they can receive one non-transferable permit for every car they have registered in their name. So it's just a sticker permit that goes on the windshield. They are slightly less expensive, only because, I'm assuming, because they can't be moved from one vehicle to another. So they're, they can't be used in that regard. But they are among one of the more common permits. Certainly.
okay, I'm sorry, you're refreshing my memory a little bit. When we went to the 222, that's when this came into place. So someone has to pay the 225 for a third vehicle they have registered at the property?
Yes, I believe that is the case, and thank you for reminding me of the 222. Yeah, so it is, that's correct. The two, and then they purchase the additional at 225.
Okay, I thought people outside of town were buying seasonal non-transferable, and that just didn't make sense to me. Well, I'm fine leaving it alone as now. I'd also be fine increasing the seasonal permits by $25. I think we're extending the season quite a bit. I don't think that these rates have been raised in quite a while. But I don't have that. I don't have a very strong opinion about it. I would be okay with it, but if the others are in favor of just keeping it as is until next year, then we can address it then.
And Commissioner, I would just have to double check the ordinance. I don't recall whether it's just 2 non-transferables or they do in fact get a non-transferable for every vehicle they have registered in their name. I would have to double check the ordinance again.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I know the 222 came up a lot. At the end of the day, I don't know what we actually voted on or approved. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm comfortable with leaving the permits review for later in the year, effective for next year if there's any increases. But I do think it got the potential for an interesting dynamic in that the parking permit's going to be so cheap comparative to $3 an hour parking. I think that we're going to be inundated in our residential areas with people using the parking tag.
That's why I was in favor of increasing it at least a little bit.
All right, so we've got some marching orders there. Any further comments? We'll close out parking. Was there anything else that you wanted to tap on into, Evan, on scooter parking fees or any of the other parking permit fees?
No, I mean, certainly if there is any interest in raising the scooter parking permit fee, let us know. They are $40 right now for the entire season, which is pretty cheap in just my opinion. But again, just commissioners, please let me know, and we'll make those adjustments.
Well, if we don't bring it up today, then likely it'll die because of timing on everything.
No, understand.
So, very good. With that, we'll close the parking topic. Thank you, Evan and Sharon, for all your work on this. Thank you, commissioners. We'll go, no new businesses have been identified. Commissioner announcements and comments. I just want to remind people that I made a presentation back in September 2021 where the mayors of Dewey Beach, Henlopen Acres, Lewis, and City of Rehoboth Beach wrote to our 3 congressional representatives seeking funding for dredging of the Lewis-Rehoboth Canal. And I did receive communication from Senator Carper's office on the 18th saying, among other projects, the Intracoastal Waterway from Rehoboth Bay to Delaware Bay, which we know as the Lewis-Rehoboth Canal, is slated to get over $3.7 million for dredging. So that's good news. It may not be enough to do the whole thing, but it's a start, and we're very appreciative of our congressional representatives on that. Commissioner Ye?
Yeah, are you ready to move on to Commissioner Kynes?
Commissioner, that was part of Commissioner comments, yeah.
And I know we're already want to get out of here, and I certainly do as well, but I do have something that's been bugging me for several hours now. We had an agenda item to consider appointments to the Stormwater Task Force. And I feel like the topic ended abruptly, after one vote, even though there's certainly a precedent with many other issues we've tackled over the months of having amendments and second votes, that kind of stuff. And frankly, the outcome that never occurred to me. It never occurred to me going into this meeting today that there would be a delay, that it might be shelved, that there would be an impasse. I never thought of that. And I feel like I wasn't assertive enough to come forward at that time. It just ended abruptly, and I wasn't assertive enough to come forward with another alternative, but I'd like to do that. I feel like we desperately need the task force. Time is definitely of the essence if you look at all the costs facing us. And I'd like to try to salvage it, by making a motion that we create a 12-person task force.
No. I'm sorry. We're not there yet. It's not on the agenda. We're past that item. And I indicated that the next step would be, we'll discuss it at the February workshop, period.
Okay, let me finish if I may. And that, we can do that, I guess, but let me finish. First, I didn't hear you say February, where I really didn't know where it was going.
I did say that, but go ahead.
So if you're going to stop me in the middle of a motion, I guess you can do that. Okay.
Yep. Thank you. It's not dead yet. I've got different options.
Okay.
Anybody else? This is commissioner comments. If not, I want to go to review future meetings. The next special meeting is February 1st. Remember, starting in February, we're changing our February meetings, special meetings, on Tuesday special meetings from, is it 2 o'clock or 2:30 to 9 a.m.? So note that change. On February 1st, the special meeting will be focused totally on trees, and we're going to start the tree review. We'll see how far we get for each meeting. I'm not sure I'm intending to do it trees every Tuesday. It may be every other Tuesday. We've also got outdoor dining to insert in there, and it's just too challenging to try to conduct a meeting every Tuesday on the same topic and not having time to prepare agendas. So February 1st is trees. February 7th is our 9 a.m. workshop. February 7th at 2 p.m. is our budget talk number 3. Anything else? We've citizen comment. Walt, do you have something you want to say that was off topic?
A citizen comment.
Yeah.
Walter Birmingham, 123 Henlopen Avenue. Going back to something from earlier, from the concern about parking in front of people's houses and education, and something I've seen and made comment about, but nothing seems to get done about it, at the Mariners parking lot near the Henlopen condo complex. The signage is absolutely terrible because the parking hawks sit around in their fancy little vehicle waiting for people to back into the parking spaces. And the signs have it when you're standing there trying to feed the meter at the very top, about 1 inch tall in letters, is say back in parking is not allowed. You must pull in so they can see your license plate. But we worry about being nice to people and treating people like we would like to be treated when we went someplace else. So signs need to be corrected. And the most important thing that will get you a ticket needs to come down at eye level or have a better sticker on it so people are being treated respectfully, because we're not doing it. You might not get a ticket for not having the right kind of parking permit or the right amount of dollars, but you get one for backing in, and it's just plain wrong. It ought to be corrected, and most of this discussion, which has been very valuable today, should have been taking place back in October. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. With that, I want to thank everybody. I thought it was a good meeting, rather lengthy, but we've covered a lot. And with that, I call this meeting adjourned at 5:32 p.m. Thank you very much.